afternoon, I'm Mike Graham, he's Mike Parry, you're listening to the Two Mikes, and we're back for a whole week of common sense and serious journalism here on Talk Radio, and there's lots of things that need sorting out, Mr. Parry. We'll be telling you all about the hygge, the new Scandinavian method of chilling out. We'll be analysing why having a degree from Cambridge can change your life, but not necessarily for the better, and I'll be finding out just what Porky got up to at the weekend. The phone number is, as ever, 0844 499 1000, plus we'll have another sparkling edition of Listography, so get your suggestions into us on Twitter, at the Two Mikes, and on our Facebook page as well. You're listening to the Two Mikes with me, Mike Graham, and Mike Parry on Talk Radio.
Across the UK, online and on DAB.
The Two Mikes on Talk Radio. We'll get you talking.
So we're back on Talk Radio. It's time to say a very good afternoon to Mr. Mike, a Porky, a Parry. Very good afternoon to you, Mr. Parry.
Yeah, very good afternoon
very
to
nice
you,
to
Mike.
be back in these plush studios, isn't it?
It certainly is, and a very good afternoon to our millions of listeners out there. Thank you for joining us.
Indeed.
And you won't have made the wrong decision, I can assure you of that.
Is that right?
Now, I saw some pictures over the weekend of you out on the beach with your dog.
Yes, what a beautiful
Ziggy.
day it was yesterday.
Beautiful day.
You don't have to give his name away, you know.
What?
Why do you always have to give his name away?
I think people know who Ziggy
Yeah, but I've
is.
told you, the more you keep saying it, the more likely it is that somebody's going to try and steal him.
Anyway.
Call his name and go, you know, come here, Ziggy, and he runs over to them.
I didn't have time, of course, to be prancing around on a beach
Well,
yesterday,
actually,
as I was, you know...
You were working again yesterday, weren't you?
Pursuing...
On your own.
Pursuing the...
Branching out.
My broadcasting career.
Yeah, how did that go?
Well, you know, you benefit from this. You know, the more words I speak into the ether, the better it is for both of us.
Well,
because
there's one or two matters arising.
We're
actually.
explaining. We are spreading the word.
There's one or two matters arising from your appearance on so-called Clash of the Titans.
Oh yeah, what's that?
Clash of the Workaholics, as I called it yesterday. Well, I was following you on Twitter and following some of the remarks that were being made on Twitter.
Yes.
And certainly at one point during the show, I'm told that you reportedly sort of slagged me off and said that I'd been sort of riding on your coattails for most of my career.
Yes, that's right, yes.
You also then hijacked my Michael Spink story.
Yes, I did, actually. I said it was both of us.
And pretended it was both of us.
That's right, yeah, I did.
So you admit now that was a lie?
Well, no, I mean, it was a bit of colourful rebuilding.
Uh-huh.
A bit of a colourful rebuilding.
So a bit of an exaggeration.
Well, I mean, we were talking
so
boxing.
You weren't actually there, were you?
Of course I wasn't there. We were talking
but
boxing.
But you did say that you were there.
But I painted a picture of it because you've explained it to me.
So you basically nicked my story
and
not
have
turned it into one of your own anecdotes.
No, I made you part of the show. I shared it with you. I mentioned your name. I didn't try and steal it. Now listen.
Yes.
I don't have to explain to our millions of listeners your Saturday night routine, which is generally called WRRW.
No, it's not generally called that at all. This is another fallacy.
Red whiskey.
It's another fallacy.
Okay, well, perhaps you could tell me this then. When I rang you on Sunday morning to speak to you before I embarked upon my day's travails, i.e. Clash of the Titans, a member of your household answered your phone. It wasn't you.
Yeah.
And it was then explained to me that the answering of the phone was taking place in the lounge downstairs.
That's right, yeah, correct.
It was then explained to me later that the reason that phone was downstairs was because as you staggered off to bed in the early hours of Sunday morning, right?
Yeah.
You took with you the remote control from the television and not your phone.
It's true, actually, yeah. Yeah, I think, you know what I'm worried about? I think it's the sort of early signs of madness kicking in.
Oh, no, I think it's the later signs of bladderation.
Well, this is how it happened with my dad. You know, my dad started doing things like that. Yes. You know, when he once came down to my place in Wiltshire, and he went upstairs to wash his hands or something.
Yes.
And the next thing I knew, there was water dripping down through the ceiling.
Right.
He basically put the plug in the sink.
Yes.
Turned the taps on.
Yes.
And then forgot to turn them off.
And did he come back downstairs? That is worrying.
And then, like you, he completely denied ever doing it.
Yeah, right. It wasn't me.
So this is like, and it's about sort of a few years older than me was when he started to go a bit mad.
Yeah.
So I'm starting to get a bit worried now because, in fact, you're absolutely right. What I did was I stayed up quite late. I think it was on Saturday night.
Right.
I was watching a movie or something, and so what I did was, as I always do, I take my phone upstairs.
Yes.
Put it somewhere just in case
but you
somebody's
didn't
trying
take
to get
your
a
phone,
hold of
did
me.
you?
No, I took the remote control apparently from the television.
This is a very worrying sign, I have to say.
And left the phone downstairs.
And then when you woke up next day, did you wonder why? I wonder why that phone hasn't rung this morning.
The thing that was bothering me most was when I came downstairs, I saw the phone there, and I thought, that's unusual. I don't usually leave the phone down here.
That's right.
Then I switched it on, and it was completely flat.
Yeah.
And my son, who's 12,
yes.
Had apparently been illegally accessing his Instagram account, which he's been banned from doing by his mother, on my phone.
Right.
Which he then also denied. He wasn't even smart enough to recharge the phone.
Right.
And his mother said, well, he wouldn't be doing that because I've told him he's not allowed to use your phone.
Right, yes.
So first of all, he now knows my access code to use the phone.
How did he get that?
Well, I don't know. He's 12. I mean, he must have just watched me doing it. And
this is very worrying.
So I mean, the whole family,
perhaps
the whole family unit basically is on the brink of collapse at this point.
No, perhaps your family are keeping an eye on you because they see other strange tendencies towards confusion and.
Well, possibly so.
You know?
And anyway, so we couldn't find a remote all day. until finally he went upstairs and went into the room where I'd been sleeping and produced the remote and said, look, I found the remote. You must have brought it upstairs last night. I think it was your phone.
You see, this is...
It is a bit worrying.
It is very worrying indeed.
Yeah.
However, we got through the weekend.
Yeah, we did. And I had to stay up late last night, of course, because I wanted to watch the Trump-Clinton debate, which I have to say, as many people have said already, and we won't spend a lot of time on this because I'm sure that you didn't watch it and you probably have no interest in who's going to win the American election.
Well, I have. I've got a huge interest because it will affect the world economy.
Well,
and the world economy is very important.
Well, that's exactly why I was in despair, because I'm watching this thing and I'm going, this is the most important country in the world, probably, whether you like America or not. It's supposed to be the sort of the biggest and most important free nation in the entire globe, right? And these two people are just sniping at each other like something out of a sort of, schoolboy debate, schoolroom debate.
What I thought was
appalling, absolutely appalling.
Donald Trump's almost become a parody of himself now. I mean, now you and I have been taking the mickey, perhaps unkindly, out of a new English manager in English
Well, the American guy, Bobcat Bob.
Bobcat Bob, I get you there, boy. Which is a sort of, a very sort of caricature-ish image of an American.
Yes.
But Donald Trump has become a caricature of himself.
Well, exactly.
When he says to Hillary Clinton, and they look like two people who are neighbours, if you see what I mean. And when she said, so he said, I'd have you in jail, Hillary. and then she stares at him. What are you talking about? He says, if I become the president of the United States, if I win.
It's quite horrifying.
If I win.
I mean, can we not just kind of close the whole thing down and say, just keep Barack Obama for another 4 years?
Yeah. If I win, I'm going to appoint a special commissioner to investigate your affairs. You'll be in jail. I mean,
did you see
mad
that?
Is all that?
But also, did you see, I mean, you might not, I don't know if they've clipped this, but, when he started having a go about Bill, and then they panned across to Bill Clinton's face like thunder, because he's having to sit there through this kind of ritual humiliation, and she's having to sit there and listen to this ritual humiliation.
I would have thought Bill Clinton's used to it. I mean, he was once almost impeached for having a sexual relationship with a woman in the Oval Office.
That's right.
The Oval Office.
That's right.
The office where the President of the United States considers whether or not to press the nuclear
button. Well, he's not the first one to have done that, though, is he?
Well,
JFK led the way.
What, in the Oval Office?
I would imagine
sure.
so.
No,
I would imagine so.
No, I've read books on JFK. It was mostly down in the swimming pool changing rooms below the White House, in the sports complex,
Yes.
But
I'm sure there would have been some jiggery pokery going on there.
There may have been, but when he said, you were married to the man who was the most abusive president to women in the history of this country,
we're laughing, but it's tragic, actually. This. It's really absolutely awful.
I'll tell you, the amazing thing was, I was in Washington when Clinton was inaugurated the first time. So the night before, they put on this ridiculous, photo opportunity.
Oh, yeah.
And Bill Clinton goes along to, the huge cemetery. What's it called?
Arlington.
Arlington, that's Arlington, the military
where they have
cemetery.
the war graves.
Where they have the war graves. But they also have the eternal flame burning at John F. Kennedy's, graveside. And they got, a very solemn Bill Clinton kneeling down, and, crossing across on his forehead.
Because there was wasn't there a famous picture of him meeting Kennedy as well? From his past when he was a young man.
He was a Boy Scout.
Yeah.
He was a Boy Scout and he went up to
was he?
Washington. Yeah, he was.
Sure he wasn't some kind of political activist?
No. Honestly, it was something like, I'm not sure it was the Boy Scout. I'm sure it was like the Marine
Boy Scout.
No, the Marine Scouts or something. No, it was
Marine
honestly.
Scouts.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, it was something like that. Yeah, and honestly, the amount of political satire that came out of that, Bill Clinton's going to try and do out JFK in every area of government.
Well, indeed.
Does that include the women?
Yeah, I think
it did actually.
As it turned out, absolutely right. Now, we put out a little video just before we
certainly did.
We came on to do
this show.
Good,
actually.
A lot of people have looked at it, and here's what Rob says. He says, "Old Mike Graham has the look of Ludwig van Beethoven.
Yes, he
Porky
did.
has the look of my bin man."
That's not very fair.
That's
not very nice, is it? Actually, sorry, I nearly played that by mistake.
What are you doing?
Well, I was just looking at it.
Why have you got the volume turned down on your phone?
I should have, shouldn't I? Yeah.
By the way, we might be talking about your phone later on because there's been a few more incidents of spontaneous combustion.
Hang on. I've got a Samsung, and apparently they're bursting into flames.
Yeah.
But haven't iPhones had a similar sort of problem?
No.
Okay, I'll take that back.
iPhones
are safe.
No, don't start libelling Apple because they've got an awful lot of money and they'll come after you and ruin you.
I'm not.
And this station, and that will shut us down.
Yeah, I totally
so don't start talking about exploding iPhones.
iPhones, I want to apologise entirely. There's not a single problem with any of your phones.
Exactly.
I know that. My sister's got one. I wouldn't let my sister have one if I thought there was anything wrong.
No, right. Okay, now, coming up, we're going to be talking about Hygge, which is the new Scandinavian method of chilling out. Also, we're going to talk about Cambridge University, because as much as you're such an elitist yourself, you weren't actually able to go to any sort of higher learning institutions with any great success, were you?
And the other thing I'm going to talk about
you want to answer that?
Are villages, right?
Villages?
Yeah, because everybody says, my dream is to, make all my money, retire into a little village in,
that's what you want to do.
Derbyshire or something.
You want to go and live in Northumberland,
I'm going to live on the coast.
You're going to live just in a house on its own?
No, I'm going to live in a penthouse on the coast overlooking the beach. Yeah, that's right. I like penthouses.
Where are you going to find a penthouse in Northumberland?
In Tynemouth. I've already spotted one,
You've
so don't
seen
worry
it,
about it. Yeah.
Oh, really?
And that's what I know. But you see, the trouble with villages is people who live in villages are weirdos in the sense that,
Well, that's a bit of a sweeping statement, isn't it?
Well, if you live
I used to live in a village.
Yeah, I know. But
I'm not a weirdo.
Well, that's up for debate. But you're an outsider. You're an outsider coming in. And the problem is, it's all the old people stop talking when you walk in the pub.
Yeah.
People look at you funnily when you go into the post office. You've seen the start
Also, everybody knows everybody else's business.
all the curtains are twitching all the time. And have you seen the start of the American Werewolf in London?
Werewolf?
Yeah, that's
werewolf.
right. Yeah, when they walk into the pub in Yorkshire.
Oh, yeah, that's not the start, though.
Here's the start.
That's not the start.
Here's the start, you idiot. Of course it is.
Really?
Yeah, because that's when they get massacred by the werewolf on the Yorkshire moors.
Yeah, but I don't think it's the start of the film.
It is. They get out the back of a lorry.
Yeah.
Right, they're on the Yorkshire moors, and the two of them are in the back of a pickup truck.
Yeah.
And the farmer stops and says, "There, boys, you'll get yourself something to eat and drink in there."
And
Thank
that
you.
great bald guy, the actor, Brian somebody.
Yeah,
right,
the Yorkshire fella.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. And,
okay, well, I didn't know it was right at the start.
And they go in there, and the minute they walk
by the
in... Don't worry about the time. The minute they walk in, silence descends on the pub, Who are these?
Don't go out on the
characters?
moors, lads.
No, if you go out on the moors, lads, stick to the roads.
Yeah, then stick to the path.
Stick to the path, lads, and you'll be all right.
Yeah. Well, they didn't, did they?
They didn't, no.
And they weren't, were they? No, shocking. Right, anyway, loads more to come. Don't forget, if you want to give us a few suggestions for listography, we're going to do that a little bit later on. Hashtag it listography, send it at the two mics, or look for us on the Facebook page as well. We've got loads coming up on the show, including an examination of this thing called hygge, which is the new Scandinavian method of chilling out. But right now, though, Mr. Parry, we've got a very important guest, Leif Arbuthnot from the Sunday Times, who is a Cambridge graduate, of course, and has written this weekend past all about how important it is to have a degree from Cambridge, and whether it's actually any good.
Well, I was just about to qualify that. Dreaming spies don't mean a dream job is a headline on Leif's piece, and she, as a Cambridge graduate herself, examines whether or not it is a panacea to all things great, going through what is now regarded in the official league table as the best university in the world.
Indeed. Well, let's find out from Leif exactly what she's talking about. Leif, very good afternoon to you.
Hi, Leif.
Hi, Leif, are you there? Hello.
Yeah, I'm there.
Now, you're saying it might not be a passport to a great job, but you've got a pretty good job, haven't you?
I do have a good job, but I feel pretty lucky to have got it. And it, I got it partly because I was able to do internships and stuff in the summers in London where my parents lived.
Right.
Which isn't, that wasn't the way for a lot of my my other students that I was studying with at Cambridge. So I think I was quite lucky to get my job.
I think you make your own luck, Leif, in life. Even if people don't live in London, they've got to go and find a friend's floor to sleep on when they're a student. And
look how well you've done in life, considering that you dropped out of Nottingham Polytechnic.
Excuse me, Leif. I was a student at the University of the Trent, but I decided that chartered surveying wasn't my forte after the first year and changed direction in my career. Now, Leif, can I say this to you, please? I'm a huge admirer of people who achieve academic success. Had I gone to Oxford or Cambridge, I would have taken higher education much more seriously. I'd have felt very proud to have said I went to one of those established colleges. Shouldn't really anybody who comes out of Cambridge University, especially if, like you, they've got a first-class honours degree, they should really make their way in life, because whatever you say, and I've read your piece thoroughly and it's very good, but it does open doors for you if you've got a first-class degree from Cambridge, and you should cash in on it.
Yeah, I definitely think it would be ludicrous to say that, having a first-class degree from Cambridge is going to, every door is going to shut in front of you. But I just don't think that, going to Cambridge means that you're going to be professionally fulfilled, basically, in the first few years, once you've gone through it.
Yeah, but isn't that wanting too much in life? You've got the degree, now you've got to put up with a bit of uncomfortable stuff before you get to your mid-30s.
What were you expecting? Did you think somebody was going to come and pluck you out of there and give you a job at the MI6 or something?
Well, there's quite a precedent for that.
Yes.
I think, maybe I am asking for too much. But I would say that, that generally the kind of the rapture with which people's acceptance to Cambridge is, that everyone's just like, oh my God, you got into Cambridge, how fantastic, and it's seen as this kind of introduction to this special world where everything that you do will be will be great, and you can kind of not worry anymore, and everyone's incredibly proud of their like 18-year-olds when they get into a place like Cambridge, as they should be. It is a great achievement. But I think the idea that you can then rest on your laurels and that you won't like spend the next like 4 or 5 years really earning crap money in London, and where all of your friends are, and like everyone's kind of separated. You're living in kind of slightly different conditions, not in the beautiful kind of halls as you were at Cambridge.
Is this not turning into a bit of a sort of millennials wine?
Yeah, it is.
Because my daughter is about to be 26. She's always moaning about the fact that life isn't as good as she thought it would be, despite the fact that she gets driven to work in a black Mercedes S-Class every morning and goes to work for a very high-powered organisation where they give her free food and they pay her extremely well. But for her, it's not enough.
Well, I think we've got actually quite a few legs to stand on when it comes to whining. My parents are my age. They had their own house. They were really, a lot more kind of wealthy than my peers are now.
But you don't have to worry about that because you've got wealthy parents, which they never had.
Yeah, well, yeah. I mean, sure, I don't. I'm not. A, I do need to worry about that. Thanks. And B. Just because like my parents were wealthy enough to like put me up in London for the years when I was going through Cambridge, doesn't mean that I shouldn't be like thinking about other people who were at Cambridge and not on as like in as cushy circumstances as me.
Sure.
So,
do you think it's also something that used to be the case, for example, maybe in your parents' generation if they went to Cambridge? I don't know if they did. But it was a much more of a sort of an open door to a much better life then, whereas now there's almost a kind of reverse snobbery going on, perhaps, where people look at Cambridge and Oxford graduates and think, well, they're not all that necessarily.
I think in some areas, there can be that reverse snobbery. Like in the piece, I interviewed a friend of mine who's gone into theatre directing or who's trying to get into theatre directing. And she's saying that that she encounters a lot of kind of coldness when she tells people that she studied at Cambridge, because there are so many kind of people in the theatre world who were at Cambridge particularly, and they're a bit like, God, not another one. We don't want to let another one of these posh people in. So I think there can be some reverse snobbery. I don't think that applies in every sphere. Like if you're going to be a barrister, for instance, going to Oxford is probably going to let you in much quicker than if you've gone to say
Sure.
I don't know, like Plymouth or whatever.
Nottingham University of the Trent.
But I mean, the point is, Leif, we all know. I mean, the newspaper offices you work in are stacked chock-a-block full of Oxbridge graduates.
They're not all Oxbridge, though.
They're not all Oxbridge, but the Sunday Times and the Times, there's a lot of Oxbridge people there. The government is stocked full of Oxbridge graduates. Hardly any senior minister these days gets there without being a graduate. And I have to say, Leif, if any of your colleagues have come out of Cambridge with a decent degree, even a 2-1, and are not making their way in life, that is their fault. That's because they're not trying hard enough. When you're given a golden opportunity of a springboard into adult life like that, I have no sympathy for them if they fail. And all this mumbo-jumbo about, they don't feel it's socially rewarding. I don't care.
You can see from the sort of the undercurrent of what's being said here that there's an immense amount of class envy going on here from my colleague who wishes that he was born with a silver spoon in his mouth but never was and had no chance of ever succeeding at the Oxbridge kind of game.
Didn't get a pair of shoes till I was 12.
Because he was from the wrong part of England.
Exactly. But do you understand what I'm saying? I mean, people shouldn't moan about going to Cambridge under any circumstances.
Well, I don't know. I think that that people do have a right to moan if they feel like that they're.
I think you have a perfect right to moan.
Happy. I mean, possibly you've got to moan and contextualize that moan by saying things could be way worse. Yeah. I still think there are definite grounds to kind of not be dancing around sort of holding your degree up and saying, look, I'm lucky for having gone to that great institution.
Did you have a lot of lovies in your year, Leif? I'm always fascinated by,
I actually, what? I actually had loads of lovies in my year.
Did you? And have any of them gone on to become famous? You weren't with Tom Hiddleston.
But you know what? They're on the brink of it. I feel like in 10 years' time I'll know all the celebrities in Tinseltown. They'll all be over in America making a name.
Well, isn't that a bit of a waste of a degree?
No. This is another great aspect of going to Oxford and Cambridge. In 10 years' years' time, you'll be rubbing shoulders with the PPS to the Prime Minister because it was your classmate at Cambridge.
I really hope so. It would be useful for my journalism.
Exactly. So, Leif, what would you, in your, if you were able to sort of, wish yourself into wherever you exactly want to be right now, what would your life be actually like?
Oh, well, do you know what? I'm actually quite happy at the moment.
Are you?
I wouldn't say that I would like. I wouldn't. I mean, I like London. I went to a different university after Cambridge, and so which was in America. So I've been happy to be back in London, which is the city I was born in and raised in. Yes. And the Sunday Times has been brilliant for me. I've learnt a load since I've been here for about a year. Right. Yeah. So I don't. I'm
and
not.
Do you live in a nice part of London?
For other. No, well, ish. I'm living in kind of South London, sort of.
Oh dear!
Area.
You see, it sounds to me already, Leif, that you're becoming too contented.
She's ashamed of where she lives already.
No, you're becoming too contented in life. Let me tell you this, Leif. Unless you go to work every morning with butterflies in your stomach, and something's going to happen today that you can't handle, then you're finished. You've got to relish that challenge. You've got to relish that challenge every morning. And
but going to work every day with butterflies in your stomach, it's just not a sustainable way to live.
It really is.
It is. That's why I got where I am today.
Yeah, but you had a large ball of fat removed from your stomach when you were a young man.
What's that got to do?
Well, so there's something wrong with your stomach. Give our regards to Martin Ivans, by the way.
I will do.
When you see him, tell him that he still owes me $250 from a job that I did for him some years ago. One day I'm going to come around and pick it up.
Yeah, absolutely.
The great thing is about messages that you can decide not to pass them on.
Of course you can. Yeah.
Okay, well you could do that if you wish, but I'll be coming to see him one of these days. Thank you very much indeed.
Okay,
yeah, thanks, Leif.
That's Leif Arbuthnot, who just seems very unhappy with her lot.
Well, exactly. A Cambridge degree and, things to whinge about.
This is the trouble with young people nowadays, right?
I
can't believe I'm actually saying those words. But, imagine a life like that and she's not happy. I mean, she says she's happy, but you can tell she's not.
Yeah.
And as for your butterflies theory, we'll get into that a little bit later on.
Sure.
This is Talk Radio. We are the two mics. We've got some listography coming up a little bit later on in the show, so don't forget to hashtag listography and tweet it at us at the two mics. We'll pick one of your suggestions coming up a little bit later. If you don't know what it is and you've never been involved in it before, basically you give us a sort of a scenario and we describe the three stories that we can tell about it.
Yeah,
For example, we had our three favourite counties of England.
We
before.
did. We had our three favourite days.
3 ways to make the world a better place.
Our 3 favourite books, our 3 favourite records.
Yeah, that kind of thing.
It's that sort of thing.
It's that sort of thing. But we've done quite a few of them, so come up with something unusual. It might be quite good.
That's right. Now, you're down in the country now for part of the time.
Yes,
you live
indeed.
in your country estate and you have your pied-à-terre.
I think we can also, can we not say that an invitation has been extended to you for the first time?
Indeed.
To come down for some roast dinner.
Some rock and roll.
At some point in the future.
Bit of rock and roll and a bit of roast dinner as well. Be very nice. Thank you very much indeed.
I hope you'll be able to behave yourself.
It'll be...
in the company of, children and women and all that sort of thing.
It'll be in a cold climate, won't it?
Coldish
climate.
Well, I guess it will be by then, yeah.
Bracing walk along the beach or something like that.
Right.
Now then, what I was going to tell you about was, of course, you part-time, you're a sort of country dweller. Have you been contacted with anybody who'd like you to start taking classes in the art of scything?
Scything?
Yes.
What, you mean like scything with a scythe?
You know Poldark and all this. You know the famous picture of him without your shirt on holding a scythe?
Yeah.
People are now driving around farms in the country and asking to be taught how to scythe.
No, the thing about Poldark is everything he does, he's doing without a shirt. He's done a bit of copper mining, tin mining, a bit of scything, a bit of riding on a horse.
A bit of swimming.
Everything he does, he doesn't have a shirt on.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
Absolutely ridiculous. Did you watch it last night?
No. Well, not yet.
Have you given up?
Not yet. No,
what do you mean not yet?
No, well,
when I say did you watch it last night, the answer is not yet.
No.
Because you can't go back to last night, can you?
I haven't watched last night's episode yet, okay? I was quite late getting home last night.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I tell you
what
what
was that?
Well, it's quite interesting, actually. I did the show here, The Titans.
Yes.
That's the show you're doing and invited onto, you know what I mean?
Well, I mean, they call it Clash of the Titans, but to be honest, I don't know why they call it that, because there are no Titans on it at all.
It's a bit harsh.
Not one.
Well, I mean, I'm not going to start making
3 professional footballers and you.
About my my fellow workers. But anyway, so what happened was, as I left the building, I bumped into a colleague here from a different department who likes the occasional bladderation.
Okay.
So
so you repaired to the pub, did you?
We reprised to...
How unusual.
Yeah, to a hostelry to discuss business matters.
Yes.
And, of course, time flies by.
Indeed.
And all of a sudden I thought, wow, I better get home. So I get on a train... And then I'm deeply involved in research for today's show with you.
Okay.
And went 2 stations past my station down in Stockbroker.
Why? Did you fall asleep?
No, I didn't fall asleep at all. I just wasn't paying attention. It was a train that was fast, you see what I mean? So the first time it stopped, I thought it was somewhere else mentally.
Oh, I see. Right.
And then, stupidly, at the second one, where I was going to get off, I don't know why, because I've been travelling that route for years, I got up. And I started, and remember it was pitch black outside, I started pressing the button on the door.
Yeah.
And nothing happened.
Right.
I thought the door's broken. It happens
Well, maybe you weren't actually in a station, because people have been damaged by that before, where somehow, before they had automatic doors, and somebody would wake up out of a sort of a coma-like drunken sleep, open the door and get out, and find that they weren't actually on a station at all.
Oh, no, I've got a great story about that, actually. But anyway, I was pressing, I thought the door's broken. It happens sometimes. So I speedily walked down to the next door, did exactly the same thing, and thought, why isn't this door opening? But I was on the wrong side of the train. I was, instead of on the platform side, I was on the line side. You see what I mean?
What, you mean in the middle?
No. I was trying to open the doors on the right, and the station was on the left.
Right, that's what I mean. So if you had opened the doors, you'd have been straight out onto the track and been hit by a train coming the other way.
Yes, indeed.
Well, that's very dangerous.
I know, but fortunately there is a safety procedure these days that stops the doors opening when there's no platform there. You see what I mean?
That's good. Very handy.
Good. But I tell you, so anyway, by the time...
Maybe you should take a companion with you next time.
Yeah, maybe. By the time I'd worked it out, I was 2 stations down the track. So I had to get out and then go on the underpass underneath the station, come on the other side.
You're lucky you hadn't missed the last one.
Yeah, exactly. And then wait 19 minutes for a train. So it was all a bit of a
That's disaster. A bit of a fiasco then. So did you have any dinner then?
I had a ham and cheese roll on the train. What are you laughing at?
That's all you had? That's your dinner?
Yes, that's right, yeah. No, it was...
You didn't have anything when you got home?
No, it was too late.
Ham and cheese roll?
Yeah, that's right, yeah.
Dear God. Why didn't you go to that guy in Clapham Junction where you went last time? You got the free the free sausage roll because he was closing up.
He was closing up, that's right.
Yeah, I don't know if you were going to tell the same story, but do you remember that story about the guy? I can't remember who it was. You might remember. Yeah. But he was a guy who worked in Fleet Street and he lived in somewhere like Surrey.
That's right.
And he got on the train every single night, completely pie-eyed, because he'd been drinking all night. Yeah. And he had a deal with the guy on the station where he lived to come on the train and wake him up and make sure he got off the train, right? Because otherwise he'd be down in Brighton.
Yes.
This particular night, though, he got a call from the office to say, there's something happening in Brighton tomorrow, so we want you to just go down to Brighton tonight, check into a hotel. So you'll be ready to go first thing in the morning, right? So he gets on the train as usual, he falls asleep, and he gets to his stop, and the guy comes on and goes, "Oh, Mr. Brown, whatever his name was, it's time to get off. It's your station." He's like, "No, I'm going to Brighton." And the guy's like, "No, you've told me under no circumstances should I let you stay on the plane." The guy starts dragging him off the train,
that's right,
and he's fighting him, and he's saying, "No, don't! I've got to go to Brighton." And in fact, he succeeded in getting him off the train, and said, "Look, you'll thank me for this in the morning." And he was left. It was the last train to Brighton. He couldn't get down there.
It's disgraceful.
Amazing.
Isn't it? That's what happens when you get into bladderation. No, mine's different. Mine was a bloke who I can still remember trains where you had swing doors on either side.
Yeah.
So you got straight into the compartment.
Where you put your arm out and opened it on the outside.
That's right. You got straight into the compartment. Yeah. There was no corridor.
Yeah.
There was a door this side for when you were travelling that way. You got in and the seats were there. And there was a door on that side.
Yeah, I remember those trains. Yeah.
So this guy...
They had a particular smell about them, didn't they? Because the seats were kind of cloth.
They always smelt of cigarettes, even after cigarettes were banned, because for years people have been smoking cigarettes in those trains.
Right.
But anyway, this guy wakes up and there's 6 people in the compartment and because the train has stopped at a station.
Right.
And sorry, it stopped in an approach to a station. So he wakes up, in his usual panic, and he rushes for the door. And a guy gets up and stops him and says, No, don't get out of there, get out of there. He said, Why? He said, There's no platform there. Oh, he said, Thanks very much. He turned around and went out the other door and broke his leg.
Oh, dear.
Because there still wasn't a platform there. The train had pulled up outside the station.
They must have had an awful lot of accidents like that in those days.
Oh, must have done. Yeah, must have done. It's terrible.
Shocking.
But I once went here. How about this? When I first got to London, I stayed with my sister out in Windsor, right? Oh, yeah. When I first got here in the very, very early days, and I was working for the Birmingham Mail. And I remember getting to Paddington Station, and I was completely bladderated. I'd been celebrating arrived in Fleet Street or something. And I fell asleep before the train left Paddington Station.
Yeah.
Now, when I woke up, I was still in Paddington Station, so I thought, oh, that's lucky. I could have fallen asleep there.
Right.
The train, in fact, had been to Windsor and come back. I was sitting exactly in the same seat, and I only knew that because it was an hour and 20 minutes later. And I said, and it didn't, and that was the last one.
So they didn't drag you off when you got to Windsor?
No, didn't drag me off at all.
The buffers are at Windsor and everything.
Yeah, didn't drag me off at all.
That's dreadful.
Yeah, no,
that once happened to me in New York when I was first there, and I worked for the Star up in Tarrytown. It was a magazine, and I used to have to take the train back into Grand Central. And I think there was a couple of drinks taken. We used to go to this place called the Yacht Club in Tarrytown, which was lovely. Yeah. And I fell asleep, and I woke up, and the train had pulled into Grand Central. It was one of those underground, below street level. Yeah. And all the doors were shut. Yeah. And I couldn't get out.
You couldn't get off the train?
I could not get off the train.
My God.
And basically I had to sit there for about 2 hours.
Yes.
And, of course, we didn't have phones. I couldn't phone
anybody.
What
time of the night was this?
It was about 6 or 7 o'clock when I got in, so I had to wait, basically, until a conductor came to take the train back out somewhere else.
Oh, but it wasn't like midnight or anything?
No.
Oh, I see.
No, but, I mean, the fact is, they'd locked the train up. And I couldn't get out.
That's terrible.
And I thought I was going to be stuck there all night.
Yeah, it could have been, yeah.
Absolutely horrendous.
You've got to look after yourself.
I know. There's quite a few little bits and pieces coming in on the listography front, so we will choose one of those in a little while. Yeah. And also a couple of pictures of remote controls pretending to be phones.
Yeah, really.
And we are going to talk a little bit later about this Samsung problem.
Yes.
Are you not worried that you've got a phone which is potentially a sort of a hazardous device?
Well, mine's not. I mean, let's make it absolutely clear. The model I've got, there's no history of them going on fire or anything. I think it's a new model, isn't it? That has now been withdrawn, I understand.
Well, they certainly have suspended its sale at the moment.
Yeah. Anyway, I was talking to you about scything.
The scything.
The scything. Yeah. Now, what happens is
you don't really see people scything very much, to be honest. In the country.
You do now.
Mostly, it's
demand is soaring from men who are keen to learn the 2,000-year-old skill. Right. Whose devotees apparently include Prince Charles. Prince Charles scythes his what do you scythe? Like wheat and corn.
Well, you could scythe anything. I mean, you can scythe grass if you wish.
What's that TV series where they all went out and sang while they were scything?
What?
What was it called?
I don't know.
Yeah, it was called...
Sing While You Scythe?
No, it wasn't Sing While You Scythe. They did all sing.
What show was this?
Don't you know what I know? Don't you know what I know?
I have no idea what you're talking about.
Yeah, and then they start scything all the corn and moving
sure
across the field.
This is not some musical you've been watching?
No.
How recently was this on?
Oh, about a couple of years ago.
Really?
It was a famous period thing based on a village, funny enough. We're going to talk about villages later on in the show.
What was it, like a drama, you mean?
Yeah, it was a drama, and it was called Something and Something, or Passage to...
Dempsey and Makepeace?
No.
Passage to India?
No.
I have no idea what you're talking about.
Anyway, to go on. Yeah. There are scything instructors.
Scything instructors?
Instructor Chris...
It's probably quite it's quite energetic, isn't it, scything?
I should think it is, yeah. Instructor Chris Riley has already held 16 one-day courses in Dorset.
Ah, yes, Dorset.
In Dorset this year. With 150 students paying up to £100 each to learn how to scythe.
It's not bad business.
Now, in 2014, he only had 30 customers. Yeah. In 1 month, he's had 150 this year.
And is this all being inspired by pole dog? Is that what you're saying?
All inspired by pole dog. And Chris58 says more people are aware of scything and a significant proportion have been inspired by Aidan. Oh, it's Aidan now. Aidan Turner, the actor who plays Poldark, yeah.
I just don't understand the fascination with him at all. I mean, I do from a woman's point of view, but I mean, he's a terrible actor. Right? The show's awful. Yeah. Right? The script is dreadful.
Well, the plot is so stretched out. You know what I mean? Nothing ever happens.
Well, nothing. I mean, I've watched it a couple of times now. Tried to watch it because the mother of my children quite likes it. And I just can't sit through it.
I mean,
it's dreadful.
He went. He's going to be hanged in court for inciting a riot with the.
Is that still going on? There's about 3 programmes now.
No, it's all sort. But it was so drawn out. It was unbelievable. Anyway, he says. Scything is satisfying and it's fun. It's fun. Yeah. Must have a real strange definition.
The downside,
I
suppose, of scything as well is if you get it wrong, you could injure yourself quite spectacularly because it's a very sharp thing you're using. I mean, you could cut your leg off.
But here's the strangest quote from the teacher, whose name is
You've already told
Chris,
us his name.
Chris Riley. Yeah. He says, at the last course, a man took off his shirt so his friend would take a picture for our laugh.
Oh dear. What is wrong with people?
I don't know.
I mean, really, is that what this country has come to now?
Eh?
People actually imitating a guy on television.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, it is. Yeah,
and that's pathetic, isn't it?
And anyway, apparently, after looking at the pictures of Aidan Turner scything, he got it all completely wrong. He would have cut his own legs off. Yeah. I thought, that's not sexy the way he's doing it. Yeah.
It's not very sexy if you cut your feet
no,
off.
It's not, is it? No.
Dear me. Yeah. We've got lots to do, lots of tweets to read out as well. We'll do some of those coming up. This is Talk Radio. We are the two mics. We're here all week. Well, at least until Thursday, anyway. I don't know what's happened to John Holmes this week. Do you know he got fired off the BBC for not being a woman? Or indeed, member of an ethnic minority?
So
he says, anyway.
Well, no, there's quite a bit of coverage on that, and in fact, it was all completely justified. I believe every word John said.
Yeah.
He had the, he had the phone records to back it up and all that kind of stuff. And it's as a sign of the times, is it not?
It is indeed.
Yes.
But we're hearing a little trailer for Julia Hartley-Brewer, who we'll see, of course, in the morning.
Yes.
That was something you kept to yourself. You didn't tell me you took her to 2 football matches.
I can't remember the second
What
one.
do you mean you can't remember?
Well, I knew I took her to the FA Cup
She says
final.
you took her to an England game and the Cup final.
It was the Cup final, I'm pretty sure, was...
I'm quite staggered that she would have
96.
wanted to repeat the experience.
Because it was the year Manchester United won a double, and they won their doubles.
Was this
in
when you were at the
94,
FA and you got
96.
free tickets?
No. I was the Supreme of the Press Association at the time.
Supremo?
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
So I only had to ring up my friends at the FA, where I'd previously worked, and acquire.
So what was
very
the
decent
length
seats.
of time between these 2 matches?
Probably the same season, I
Really?
would imagine. Yeah, something like that.
So you were
yeah.
quite keen then?
Well, I was being a good colleague.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, was she working there as well?
No, she worked at the Standard in those days.
Well, how
Standard.
were you colleagues then?
Well, because, it's all Fleet Street based and all that kind of stuff, you know what I mean?
I thought PA was in Victoria, wasn't it?
No, in those days it was in Fleet Street.
Was it?
Yes, it started in Fleet Street, yes,
Okay.
absolutely.
All right.
In fact, one of the most famous buildings in Fleet Street, it's an iconic one, which was then...
was it the one that was opposite the old Express building?
Absolutely, occupied by Reuters, but now everybody's moved out.
They've all moved out, haven't they?
And those buildings
Even
have
the
gone.
Sunday Post, they were the last people to go, weren't they?
Yes, that's right, the Dundee Courier.
No.
Dundee Courier.
Johnny says this, I'm just imagining Porky trying to stagger out the wrong door. Was the Pinot Collapso particularly good on this train?
Well, it must have been, definitely must have been. Now then, talking about the country as we were just now.
Talking about the old bladderation scenario, I had a very near miss on, I think it was Friday morning it would have been, after we'd done the show.
Yes.
And I was driving down to Sussex.
Right.
And you know how they've messed up Elephant Castle roundabout, and it's no longer a roundabout.
You can't
so you
tell
have
what
to
it
now
is.
you have to squeeze yourself into this left-hand lane, narrowly avoiding the cycle lane and also avoiding the bus lane.
That's
because
right,
if you go into either, they'll take your picture and
fined.
you'll get a
Yeah,
fine.
yeah.
So, and then you go into a sort of a ridiculous sort of chicane, which is literally like something off the Monte Carlo Grand Prix track.
Yeah.
And you have to go sort of and negotiate around buses and things. Anyway, I was in the right-hand lane, but something told me just to move into the left-hand lane, which I'm very glad I did, because as I turned around the third corner, there was a guy, and don't forget it was dark, right?
Yes.
There's a guy who's clearly a homeless man in a wheelchair, sitting right in the middle of the lane.
In the middle of the road?
Shouting, yeah. He was obviously just off his head,
Yeah.
But right in the middle of the
You're on
road.
the crystal
And
meth
the
or
guy
something,
came around the sort of side of me trying to overtake me.
Yes.
And I mean, because if you weren't paying attention, you just run the guy over.
Yeah, absolutely.
He was sitting right in the middle of the road.
Terrible.
Incredible.
Shocking. And did you stop and assist this man who clearly was demented?
No.
No?
No, I just kept going.
Well, I think you should have done.
Because if I'd stopped, then there would have been another pile-up.
That's not a very good sign
So I
of
didn't.
comradeship.
Yeah, well, thank you very much.
Listen, didn't we recently speak to Eddie the Eagle?
We did speak to him a couple of months ago because his movie, which
That's
came
right.
out, I think, earlier this year, was made available on DVD.
Yeah, and then
you spoke to him again
I did,
on
actually.
another outlet.
I did,
which you occasionally moonlight for.
Yeah, and that was about.
But the funny thing is right, when you spoke to him on this show, you were quite polite to him.
That's right.
Because he'd come on and he was telling us about the hard time that he had, and you were very sympathetic to him.
Yeah.
When you talked to him on the other station that you went on, you started attacking him.
No, I didn't.
Yes,
I said he
started
was
attacking him. You said he was a loser.
No, I said he was a true Olympic hero because I thought
did
he'd
not.
come from nothing. I did, honestly.
You got a lot of clog on Twitter for having a go at him.
Yeah.
But that was all wrong, was it?
Well, no, it depends which way you interpret it, I suppose. And I said, you're a true British hero, Eddie, because you had no resources and you did all that. But what I was talking about were the canoeists, Why is canoeing in the Olympics? Nobody cares about canoeing.
That's
anyway,
right.
point of my story.
Yeah, what is the point of your story?
Is that Eddie has actually tried to help a programme that he believes is in trouble, and it's called The Jump.
The Jump?
Yeah, now this is the one where they teach
is
people
that the thing
to ski
that
jump.
did Darren Goff not go on it as well?
No, I don't think Goffey went on that one, did he? Did he?
I thought he was going to go on it, or he had gone on it.
Well, he might have done, but anyway, the problem is 3 or 4
people keep getting injured on it.
That's exactly what I'm saying. Have been seriously injured on this, right? Now, Eddie knows why. And I've been picking up on this overnight, reading what he had to say.
Yeah.
What he says is they're wearing the wrong boots.
Oh, really?
And I don't know, you've done a bit of skiing, haven't you?
I have. I've never done any ski jumping, though.
No ski jumping.
I mean, that was one of the things we said to him. I mean, how do you actually know
That's right.
that you'd be any good at it?
Only be able to land.
You can't really practice, can you? I mean, I suppose you could do little sort of smaller versions of the
but
big
how do you
jump.
know how you're going to land, from hundreds of feet up?
Well, I suppose you can practice the landing.
Yeah, I suppose so.
But, I mean, that you can't really practice that big, long thing unless you actually do it, right?
Yes. No, I totally agree.
Yeah.
Anyway, the point is, he saw this show, rang him up and said, look, you're getting this all wrong. And they said, what do you mean? He said, you're wearing the wrong sort of boots.
Right.
Now, apparently there's quick-release boots and non-quick-release boots or something like that, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Or the boots you wear...
So is he saying the quick-release ones will be better?
Well, what he's saying, and it's all a bit technical, this, so I'll just
That's particularly for you, since you know nothing about skiing. I thought you said you'd been skiing.
Oh, I have been skiing, yeah.
But only once?
Twice. Went twice on the school trip to...
2 school trips?
To Wengenalp, which is north, it's in Matterhorn.
Did you go to the same place twice?
Interlaken.
Did you go to the same place twice?
Well, yeah, because the school...
shouting it.
because the school went to the same place every year.
Really?
Interlaken.
How boring. How tedious.
Wengenalp and Clanscheidegg. Yes, that's where we went, yeah.
How old were you when you went?
14.
Yeah, it's a dangerous age to go on a ski trip.
Yeah, I suppose it is. I got snow blind because I forgot my goggles one day.
Snow blind?
Yeah, I got snow blindness, yeah. It
was a ski resort you were in, not the
I know,
middle of the Arctic.
But do you know how white snow is in a ski resort where there's nothing else?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah, I'm telling you, you know. And I forgot my goggles one day, and I said to the teacher, it was Mr. Clamp, actually. Tom Clamp, yeah. I said, no, that's right, Mr. Clamp, don't need them. He said, you will, son, you will.
Well, why didn't he get you another pair?
Well, because I'd left them back in the room, you see.
Yeah, but why didn't he make sure that you had another pair?
Well, good question. Perhaps he should have done. So by the end of the, 2 hours later, I couldn't see anything. I was snowblind. Anyway, you go. Anyway, what Eddie says is, he says you've got to wear a certain type of boot because if you don't, you can't get your skis at the right angle when you come off the ramp. Okay. Right. And the air pressure forces your skis up, and you're unstable, and you'll hurt yourself when you land. Now, considering
surely the people doing the programme will know about what kind of boots they should be wearing.
Well, you would think so, but do you know what Eddie got in return?
What?
First of all, he got a thanks for that, and they ignored it.
Yeah.
Then when he tried to test again, he started getting solicitors' letters saying, "Don't speak out against our show, you nuisance."
He really, he's one of the world's most hapless men, isn't he? Because whatever he does, nobody pays any attention to him.
Well,
when he kept trying to get into the Olympics, the British Olympic Association kept ignoring him.
Yes.
Then they tried to get him kicked out. And then when he was there, he was a complete and utter failure. He was a laughing stock.
Yeah, but
and even now, nobody pays any attention to him.
Well, this all happened, by the way, at the Times and the Sunday Times Cheltenham Literature Festival when he was talking, okay? But I
didn't get my invitation to that this year.
No, I didn't get it either. So 8 people, at least 8 celebrities on the last series were injured, leading to calls for the show to be abandoned. Right. But Channel 4 has commissioned another series against most people's expectations. Right. But he said, what Eddie says is, he said, right, this is what it's all about, okay? Eddie Edwards said the Jumps producers had initially wanted Eddie to be a coach on it, but later told him they'd only like him to be a commentator, please. So he says the celebrities were using alpine ski equipment.
So he's been a commentator on the show?
He's been a commentator on the show.
Oh, okay. So why wouldn't they pay attention to him?
I've no idea. And he was the only man who'd ever been a professional ski jumper, if you see what I mean, or done it in competition.
Yeah, right.
So he says the celebrities were using alpine ski equipment. They were using jump skis, but alpine boots and bindings.
Yeah.
If you go alpine skiing, your boots lock into position. Lock you into position, and you can't move. The same with the bindings, they lock you into the skis. He said that when it comes to takeoff, this allows the skier to go forward with the air pressure forcing the skis up. No. He said that the coaching team on the programme were trying to teach him a ski jump technique, but because they were locked into their skis, as soon as they go forward, their skis drop, and they go over the top of their skis, and it's very dangerous.
Oh, so and they rip the ligaments in their ankles.
Exactly,
like
and all this. Now, listen to the list of people. Rebecca Adlington, dislocated shoulder.
Right.
Tina Hobley broke her arm in 2 places and injured her knee. Beth Tweddle, Olympic gymnast, feared she could be paralysed when she fractured 2 vertebrae.
Oh, God.
Louisa Lytton, the actress, rushed to hospital before the show had even begun after a fall.
I'm amazed they could even get insurance for these people.
Well, Heather Mills, former Lady Mills, Paul McCartney fame.
Was she not quite a good skier?
Well, I think she skied for the Paralympics team,
I think she did, yeah.
Yeah, quit after injuring her knees. Right. Sarah Harding from Girls Aloud ruptured a ligament.
Blimey.
Mark Francis Vandal of Made in Chelsea, a programme I've never heard of.
Well, I've heard of it, but I've never watched it.
Yeah, I've never watched it. Broke his ankle during the snowcross, and so on and so on. Linford Christie pulled his hamstring.
Blimey.
I mean, and so Sally Burko, and who's she? Oh, yeah, the Speaker's wife, yeah.
Sally Burko, yeah.
Yeah, dropped out of the series.
Well, she's a part-time wife, isn't she?
Yeah, that's right, yeah.
I mean, sometimes she seems to be his wife, sometimes not.
All in all, I think what you've said is probably right. I think poor old Eddie the Eagle's reputation precedes him wherever he goes.
And so does that mean he's no longer associated with the programme?
Oh, definitely, I think so, yeah. Channel 4 said Eddie has worked on each series of The Jump as a commentator. He has never been involved in any aspect of the training programme, as this is the responsibility of qualified instructors who teach the celebrities to ski jump.
Well, maybe they should take a bit more.
Modern.
Maybe they should take a bit more notice of the guy.
Exactly, according to modern accepted standards. I totally agree.
Absolutely
right.
Agree. Yeah. Well, I mean, don't worry. They can put all their money now into the Great British Bake Off, which won't be called the Great British Bake Off, and won't have anybody in it from the Great British Bake Off, apart from the one guy who decided to hang
Paul
around.
Hollywood, is
Paul
that it?
Hollywood. Yeah, exactly right. Now we've got loads coming up in the next hour. We're going to be talking about these Note 7 phones, which have now been recalled. In fact, are you sure you haven't got one?
No, definitely not.
Are you absolutely sure?
Well, how do you tell? Let me have a look.
How do you know what sort of model you've got? Where does it say what model it is?
Where does it say what model it is?
I think you might have one, you know.
No,
I would go into the shop and just check it out.
No, I've had this now. It's a good phone. I love it. I've had it about, I would say, a year.
Really?
So these new phones are pretty recent, aren't they?
It's never got hot or anything?
No, it never got hot.
Okay, all right. Well, we'll have a look at it later on. Also, of course, Listography. We've got loads of great suggestions coming in. Hashtag it Listography and send it on Twitter at the 2 Mics, or go for a look off our Facebook page as well, where you can find, incidentally, all the other stuff that we're up to. We've got a new video coming out soon. We've got some podcasts coming out. And we've got a new website coming out. Got a new website coming out. We've got a Liverpool show coming up and a Glasgow show. More about that coming up soon. Good afternoon, I'm Mike Graham, he's Mike Parry, you're listening to The 2 Mics. We're back for a whole week of common sense and serious journalism right here on Talk Radio. We're going to be talking about exploding Samsung phones. We're going to be talking a little bit more about the presidential situation, I dare say. And also about villages as well. You've got a story about villages for us, haven't you?
Well, I'm going to tell you something about villages. I've always been a bit suspicious of villages, ever since
Have you never lived in one?
No, but I bought a caravan once when I was a callow youth.
A caravan?
Yeah.
What sort of caravan?
Well, a caravan like you tow behind a car.
Yeah, I know, but what kind, though? I mean, there's about a million different kinds of caravans.
Well,
you can get like a really small one. That looks
it was a
like,
smallish one.
Yeah, smallish. This is one little single door in the middle.
Yes, that's right.
And 2 wheels in the middle.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah.
It was a, quote, love nest, okay? Yeah.
How appalling is that?
No. And
How was it done out on the inside? It didn't have, like, you know those American vans that they used to have with, they put sort of fur all the way up there on the inside?
No, what happened was I decided
weird lights.
I needed a sort of illicit knocking shop.
Was this when you were still living at home?
Yes, it was actually, yeah. And
how old were you then?
About 19.
Okay.
And
you bought a caravan when you were 19?
Yeah.
That's very odd.
And
that is really weird.
Yeah, that's right, yeah. But
you didn't have a car, did you?
Well, I used the office car from the Chester Chronicle to get there.
Well, did that have a hook on it?
No, it's placed on a site on a farm in Wales.
Stationary caravan.
Yeah, stationary caravan. Yeah, and it was on I bought it off a farmer who had no use for it anymore and all that. And I said, okay, I didn't want to move it anywhere, but it was great. It was only an hour from Chester.
But it was a movable caravan.
Yes.
I mean, it wasn't one of those ones on stilts.
No, it's movable. It's movable.
Mobile home type thing.
No, it's movable.
Right.
It's movable. And the whole idea was to use it as an illicit sort of, quotes, love nest, you know. Yeah. If I wanted a bit of rumpy-pumpy without my regular girlfriend or something like that.
That's right. Talking about that kind of thing.
Yeah, without my regular girlfriend at the time, you see what I mean? So that's what it was there for.
Oh, what did you tell her? You've been sent away on a job or something?
Yes, absolutely. Work. Yeah, work. Oh, got to go and cover the scouts who are at camp in Snowdonia.
Didn't she ever want to come with you?
No. And so...
would you have to transport the person with you?
Yes, exactly.
To the caravan, or did you just have a liaison there?
No.
They make their own way?
No. Go down
it's
there.
Very tawdry, this story. Very tawdry.
But anyway, the problem was, whenever you walked into the local pub, because it was on the edge of a village, all the locals started talking in Welsh.
Really?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And whereabouts in Wales was it?
Well, I've no idea, really. It was on the other side of Wrexham,
you
know, and I knew the way there, but I've forgotten what it was called or anything. The caravan's still there, just abandoned it. You know what I mean? Yeah.
What, you mean it's actually still sitting there?
Well, as far as I know, unless somebody's towed it away.
Just, sort of gone into rack and ruin.
It probably has, yeah.
So what was inside this caravan then?
Well, the sort of things you find in a caravan.
I've never been in that many caravans.
Well, a couch that converts into a double bed.
Right.
A cooker.
Did it have a kitchen?
Yeah, it had a cooker and kitchen. Right. I've never used it. I mean,
did it have like a shower or anything?
No. It didn't
have any running water?
Well, because it was on the farm, there was a building next door that had the shower and the running water and everything. You know,
so no running. So you couldn't have a shower in the caravan?
No, of course you couldn't. Where would you get the water from? It wasn't plumbed up to a blinking water system, was it?
No.
And And it was great, to go away weekends. And, I mean, it was quite, at 19, when you could say to somebody, you want to come and stay at my place for the weekend, whoosh, and off down there. It was great. Yeah, no problem.
Sounds horrific.
No, not at all.
Sounds awful, because I had one of those mobile homes, I think I've told you once, when I was living in Scotland. And as a facility, as it were, to write about, I was able to drive this thing around. It was a Fiat.
That's right.
And the thing that amazed me about it was that it had ordinary sort of car wheels.
Yeah.
It didn't have 19-inch alloys or anything like that, like a lorry.
Yeah,
and this thing was massive. I mean, it was as long as an 18-wheeler.
Yes.
But it just had 4 little wheels.
Yeah.
And so it was incredibly unstable.
Really?
I nearly turned it over. I came down the motorway, and I was going around. I came off at Bath because I had to go pick the kids up in Wiltshire.
Yes.
So I had to drive it all the way down from Scotland.
Yeah.
And it was fine on the motorway, but as I came off, there's quite a big bend on the M4 when you come off at Bath.
And
it started literally, I could feel it tipping.
Good
And
God.
I thought, and the steering wheel was flat, like a sort of an old-fashioned bus.
Sure, yeah.
So it was really hard to manoeuvre.
I had that once.
So when I took it, along with having it, I also had permission to go and stay in any campsite from the caravan club for free. Right?
Okay, yeah.
And I went into this place. I went into several of them, actually. Yeah. And most people who had something this big had a car that they would tow along by the back of it so they could go to the shops and stuff. But I didn't. So everywhere we went, I had to take the kids in this huge thing. Like when they go to Tesco's, I had to drive this huge thing.
And did you ever find anywhere to park and all that
Well,
kind
I used to have to park it sort of at the far end of the car park because it would take up about 8 spaces.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
But the funniest thing was...
what a load of malarkey.
The funniest thing was, whenever I'd go into these caravan sites, I'd park up and suddenly I'd be aware of a sort of a gathering of people outside.
Oh, the latest model.
It was a brand new model,
that's right? Yeah.
And they'd come up and sort of knock on the door and go, "Oh, welcome to whatever caravan site it was, my name's Desmond.
Yeah,
all right.
Can we have a look round?
Can we come in and have a look?
Yeah.
And they all started traipsing in and going, "Oh, look at that!"
Do you know what?
I found it very odd.
I was walking one time down in Hampshire, down near my place in Goswell, and you have to walk through one of those caravan parks, okay?
Yeah.
And I mean, it never fails to amuse me. These guys, they pull up and then they open the awning, right? Or the yawning, is it? Is it the awning? The awning?
That's right, yeah.
And then they have like little...
And they take the little picnic chairs and tables out.
Yeah, well, I was going to say, then they have little attachments that they fix to the side, like windbreaks and all that kind of stuff,
that's it.
And then they start playing lacrosse. Is it lacrosse?
Badminton.
Badminton, that's right. They start playing badminton.
How can you confuse lacrosse and badminton?
Well, I don't know, but they all do exactly the same. They're all doing the same. But then... So, I've seen this actually happen, what you've just described. Then another one, guy comes in, he arrives, and look, it's the XL441. Brilliant. I haven't seen one of those for about 12 months.
Right.
Let's go over. And they're all talking like, they're like train spotters.
Yeah,
except that they're caravanette spotters.
And I mean, it's quite a pleasant sort of holiday to take. The kids actually loved it because,
I bet they did. It was very exciting.
What they liked about it was that whenever they got hungry, you didn't have to stop anywhere. You could just go back and get something out of the cupboard.
Yeah, I know. In an ordinary caravan, if you turn it behind your car...
Yeah.
Well, of course, I always thought that, that's great because, you get one guy driving and then you could be having a bit of rumpy-pumpy in the caravan at the back if necessary. You know what I mean?
don't think that's allowed.
I was going to say,
very unsafe, isn't it?
If there were 2 or 3, if there were 2 couples, you could swap all the time, couldn't you? One couple could be in the car.
I don't know where you get these ideas
from. Hang on, and the other couple could be in the caravan that's been towed.
I don't think you're allowed to travel in a moving
caravan. You're not. The first time I tried that, I was told it's against the law. You can't do it. So that sort of took a bit of the fun out of the game. You know what I mean?
Why are we talking about caravans anyway?
We're talking about caravans for what reason? We're talking
I've no idea.
Oh, because you talked about your caravanette that you got the facility for.
No, but you started the story before about the caravan.
No, I didn't. No.
Yes, you did.
No, I didn't. Oh, yeah, about my caravan.
Yeah.
Well, I said I had the caravan in Wales because you were talking about going into places where people were weird and all that.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Listen,
well, the village thing, that's what you were talking about.
No, the village thing.
The
we're
strange
talking
village.
about
I lived in a village in Wiltshire, right?
Yes.
Which later became known as the village of the damned.
I'm not surprised if you lived there.
Yeah, well, not slightly. Well, obviously my marriage broke up when I lived there, but loads of other people's marriages broke up as well.
Yeah.
And the thing was, all the people that would live there would take their kids to the same school.
Yes.
And there was a lot of... sort of stuff that went on, shall we say, extracurricular.
I bet there was.
Because sometimes you would have men who stayed at home and looked after the kids.
Yes.
And the wife went off to work.
Yes.
And in other places you'd have the wife staying at home to look after the kids and the man go off to work. But the people who would meet sort of at the school gate ended up getting involved in these kind of illicit liaisons.
Yes, that's right. Yeah,
so
because there's nothing else to do in the village.
there's nothing else to do.
That's right.
Kids would be away at school for 6 hours.
Yes.
And then they would repair to one or the other's house.
That's right, yeah.
And get
on with it,
right?
yeah.
And also, bizarrely, I was driving... Carry on, steady.
Yeah.
I was driving back from... My kids still went to school in another village. So I was driving back one day. And lo and behold, as I came into the high street of my village... There was a whole crowd of people standing outside this house.
Yeah.
And I thought, that's a bit odd. And then I suddenly saw Alan Rees Who
Yeah,
was,
Reese, the West Country correspondent of the Daily Express. Yeah.
And then I realised that actually they were all journalists, right?
Right.
And it turns out that they were doorstepping. Do you remember the guy who cheated in the Who Wants to Be a Millionaire?
The Major.
The Major, yeah,
Yes.
the coughing Major.
Yeah.
And he was living in the same village, which we didn't know.
Blimey.
And so I sort of went round the window down and shouted, "Get off the street, you scum, tabloid scum."
That's right.
It was very funny.
Yes.
But yeah, I mean, the village life was very, very strange.
I know it is indeed. We're going to talk about that in a minute, aren't we? Because I've got a report about village life, which I'm going to tell you about.
Well, I thought that's what we were talking about.
Well, no, we will in a second, because there's something else I've got to tell you, which is
Go on.
amazing. You know, I mean, I study my journals all the time.
I know that. Mind you, yesterday you didn't have a lot of time, did you? Because you were working for 4 hours, and then you were out drinking for another 4 hours.
It's true.
And then you got home very late. So I don't know where you find the time.
Now, 93 years ago,
right
today, Murray Walker.
Murray Walker, yeah.
He was 93.
Is he?
Yeah,
Right.
was born.
I didn't realise he was still alive, actually.
And on the same day...
He's not doing the commentaries anymore.
No, he's not doing the commentary. He's still alive. And on the same day, on the very same day, Nicholas Parsons was born.
Parsons. Now, I can tell
and
you
he's 93.
I'll tell you an interesting story about Nicholas
go on.
Parsons. My father used to know him.
Right,
somehow, because I think he was... I think he worked in the newspaper business sort of from time to time.
Right, okay, yeah.
And apparently, and I don't remember it because I was only 2 or 3, he used to have a house in Hampstead. We used to go around there on a Sunday, and he had a swimming pool. And apparently, I used to swim in his swimming pool.
Really?
Yeah. But I don't remember it at all. I don't remember it at all.
Well, hang on. If he's 93 now, so let's say that was 50 years ago, right? He would have been 43 then. So he'd been sort of middle-aged then.
Yeah, but I don't remember any of it. I don't remember going to the house. I mean, my father used to tell me where it was. I know exactly where it was, opposite the Bull and Bush pub by the Heath.
Yeah, I know where that is.
And I think he might still live there.
Golly, I suppose he might. He quite probably does. Isn't that amazing?
Yeah.
That 93 years ago to the day, Murray Walker and Nicholas Parsons were both brought into this world. Well, I just think it's astonishing that they were born on the same day.
Well, famous people do tend to have birthdays alongside other famous people.
Well, I know,
sometimes.
But you don't very often see the... I'm talking not just about the same date. I'm talking about exactly the same date, 93 years ago.
Oh, I see what you mean.
You know what I mean?
Well, Nicholas Parsons is still working as well, isn't he? Does he not still do a radio show?
I doubt it.
I think he does.
Would your voice hold up?
I'm pretty sure he does on the BBC.
And Murray Walker we haven't heard about for some time, so I think he's quite resigned to retirement now.
Exactly right.
Yeah.
Now, I'm going to get talking to an expert coming up next. Tom Cheesewright's going to join us.
What's that about?
About the exploding Samsungs, right?
Oh, okay,
because I'm going to get you to describe your phone to him, just in case it might be.
Yeah, good idea.
One of the ones that's going to go up in flames.
Good idea. I've got to protect my, my bodily
well, the trouble
goodwill.
Is, for a lot of people who have had this happen to them, sometimes the phone's actually been in their pocket and they get quite badly burnt.
That's right.
So you've got to be very careful.
Yeah.
But we'll talk to Tom about that coming up next. We are the Two Mics. This is Talk Radio. We are the Two Mics. There will be a podcast coming out. We've got lots of great listography ideas, which we'll go through very soon and pick one for us to do in the last hour of the show. And we'll be talking to a guest about the strange villages as well around the country. Right now, though, we're going to talk to Tom Cheesewright, who's a technology expert, about this problem with the the Galaxy Note 7 phone. It's a Samsung operation. It's apparently prone to overheating.
Right.
But I'm just reading the latest story here, which says that basically British phone operators are discussing safety concerns with Samsung.
Yeah.
So I don't know whether that means that this phone might still be available here. People still might have it. Let's talk to Tom and find out. Tom, very good afternoon to you.
Hello, Mike.
Thanks very much indeed. I mean, I'm slightly confused here because the phone's been recalled, hasn't it, basically, in America and Canada. Is it still actually around here then?
It is, and you've got to look at these phones as not all identical. Particularly, they don't all have the same battery in. So the battery that's been the cause of this massive problem for Samsung is actually made by a division of Samsung itself.
All right.
But it also about 30 or 40% of the phones, and increasingly because they're switching the batteries as fast as they can, are made by a completely different manufacturer and don't, we think, have the same problem. So it could be that a third of the phones out there are completely safe. And I imagine what they're trying to do now is work out what they've got in their stores.
Right.
Okay.
Well, my colleague here, Mr. Parry, has got a Samsung phone, but he's not actually sure if it's a Note 7. How would he be able to tell?
Probably
when it blows up, right?
Well, have a look at the back. It should probably tell you, or have a look in the settings and have a look at under the About tab. It'll tell you exactly what it is.
The thing is, Tom, I've had mine for about a year now. I haven't had a problem with it. But the funny thing is, I had a previous Samsung, right, and it was a lovely, sleek blue one. I was very proud of it until it started to drain of power very, very quickly. I mean, I'm talking about like 20 minutes after you used it, all the bars on the amount of power you got had gone. And I took it back to the shop and I said, what's happened here? And what had happened was the battery wasn't exploding, but it was bending and forcing its way out of the phone. Now, is that something you're aware of? Yeah.
Absolutely. So, lithium-ion batteries, which is what most of our electronics rely on, they're fundamentally problematic. Let's be honest, you're trying to store an enormous amount of energy in a very small amount of space.
Yes.
And that's always going to be a problem. And they're incredibly complex things with lots of small parts inside. But if they bend or twist, or if something goes slightly wrong in the charging, they basically start to heat up and expand, and that's when you start to get problems. So there's all sorts of things that can go wrong with a lithium-ion battery. That's why they've been so cautious about letting them back on planes once they started to explode.
Yeah, right.
Exactly.
So, I mean, if there are people out there, listening to this show who have got one of these phones, I mean, what is the best thing for them to do? Because, as you say, they might be fine. They might be manufactured in a place where the batteries aren't, giving a problem. But how would they find out?
So whatever happens, if you've got a Note 7 that you haven't replaced yet, get it replaced. The chances are better now that you'll get one with one of the safe batteries in, but there's no point taking any chances. Samsung will replace it. Take it back if you've got one.
Yeah, Tom, commercially, this is a disaster for any companies. Now, I'm not picking on Samsung. I'm fine with my phone. It's been a great phone. I haven't had any problems with this or the last one. But when people start listening to a radio show like this talking about phones exploding, I mean, this is commercially incredibly damaging, isn't it?
Absolutely. I mean, this goes well beyond embarrassing for Samsung because it's not just happened once, it's not just happened twice, but now actually the phones that they've had replaced, the replacement phones they've given people saying these are safe, 5 of those have now exploded.
Oh, dear.
And so this is an ongoing saga that should have been solved very quickly. They screwed up how they handled it in the US by not going through the US authorities for an official recall, as should have happened. And now it just keeps dragging on and on. Amazingly, their share price is actually looking pretty healthy.
Yeah.
That's because Samsung is an enormous company and half of its profits don't come from phones and tablets.
Oh, I see.
And one of the things I noticed, and I don't know whether this is something that they're going to expand upon, but, everybody who's got an Apple device knows where the Apple store is, but out in Westfield in Stratford they've got a Samsung shop, haven't they, which is kind of unusual because you don't really see very many of them around. Is that something they're trying to sort of push more of?
So Samsung has been trying to build up its consumer brand, if you like. People buy Apples not just because the iPhone's good, but because they're attached to the Apple brand. It has a certain cachet, a certain draw, which Samsung has never really had, and it's certainly developed that over the last few years. There are people who consider themselves Galaxy fans. They will buy every new edition of the Galaxy phone. Right. But it takes a long time and a huge amount of investment to build the same sort of love and attachment that the Apple brand has. So I think absolutely having high street stores is part of that, but really it's much more than that. It's a huge long-term global campaign to try and establish the Samsung name as aspirational and something people want to own rather than people just have because the tech specs look good.
Yeah, and I mean Android phones kind of overtook Apple phones, didn't they, sales-wise, some time ago? Is the battle still going on? I mean, who's winning it?
In terms of you consider that we compare Apple really against an entire marketplace, which is Android. Apple still does pretty well, but Android is well ahead of Apple in terms of total share now. It is a more open marketplace. It's also a much more diverse marketplace. There are clearly many more styles of phone. Samsung itself really makes massively more varieties of phone than Apple does, and then you've got all the other manufacturers like HTC and OnePlus and everybody else as well. So the long-term winner in terms of scale is always going to be the more open marketplace with more providers. But given how many companies it's ranged against, Apple still does incredibly well.
Okay, fine. Now, Tom, it seems to me that phone technology has stalled a bit. We used to have the bricks when we all first started using mobile phones, and then, you had the ones that used to buy in Carphone Warehouse and all that. Now we've got very slim ones. But what has happened to that phone that you wear on your watch, James Bond style, and that you talk into and you listen back from?
You can have one if you want one. The reality is not many of us want one. It's not a great user experience necessarily. It's great for some people, but there's nowhere near the demand for those that there was for smartphones. And people, all of the manufacturers, the designers, everybody's looking for what they call the next form factor. Yeah. What's going to be the massive high growth business to replace the smartphone, which has started to dip down. The reality is I don't think it is going to be any one market.
Could it be a phone in a pair of glasses, Tom?
What?
Could it be a phone in a pair of glasses? You know, like they put hearing aids now into the wings of glasses.
Well,
and
they
that
had
sort
Google
of thing.
glasses, didn't they? Where you could
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
You could surf
I mean,
the net.
is that going to be a goer?
I think it will in the long run, for the simple reason that the opportunity to augmented reality, so overlaying what you see with your eyes with a digital reality as well, the opportunity for that is just so great in terms of enriching our lives, giving us great information, and unfortunately for feeding us with advertising as well. And I think eventually that will absolutely take off. But the technology is just not quite there yet. You know, the batteries are still a problem. The connectivity is not necessarily fast enough to get us that rich visual overlay that we want. We haven't designed the user interfaces yet, and we can't get the price down to a sensible level. You know, Google Glass was I would say, not a failed product, but a successful experiment. It showed that we don't all want to look like Star Trek extras, and that and we're not comfortable with people wearing cameras on their heads just yet.
Yeah, right.
But I don't think it will take long till we are.
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? Well, listen, thanks very much indeed.
Thanks,
Tom C's right there, technology expert, saying that if you have got one of these Galaxy Note 7 phones, then the best thing to do is to go and take it back, because even though it might not have exploded yet, it might well do. Even
and you said they've banned them from being taken on aeroplanes.
Well, they
you'd
did.
have to, wouldn't you?
Well, they did, yeah, because I mean,
if you've got a lethal weapon on an aeroplane that bursts into flames, you're endangering the whole plane.
Well, exactly. I mean, they wouldn't. I mean, although it's very weird with planes these days. You remember how they've got those things where you dump the stuff that you're not supposed to take on?
Yes.
Lighters, for example. I mean, I never know now whether lighters are allowed on planes or not.
Well, you mean a little zippy lighter?
Well, any kind of lighter.
Yeah.
I mean, I would never take a Zippo because
it's got fuel in it.
Because it's got fuel in it.
No, I'm talking about one of the little plastic ones you buy for 99p.
Like the little disposable ones. Yeah. I mean, you walk past those when you go through security. You walk past those bins where you're supposed to drop them, right?
Yeah.
And there's pen knives in there and all sorts of stuff. You know, I always just keep the lighter with me.
Right.
When for a while, after 9/11 anyway, you couldn't take lighters on.
Sure.
And it's a very weird thing. You never know what you can take on and what you can't.
Sure, absolutely right.
And I mean, don't forget, a phone in any case is can be used in any number of different ways. I mean,
of course can.
If you were up to no good in some kind of terror-related
trigger
scenario,
an explosion.
Well, exactly.
Yes,
so
absolutely.
I mean, you know, maybe one day they'll ban those altogether as well.
Maybe they will.
Who can say?
Who can say?
Now we got a lot more coming up.
Yeah.
Did you see, by the way, that super concert that was going on over the weekend?
Well,
what do you mean? Why are you sighing?
Because none of the people who took part in it were under 70 to start
so
off
what?
with, right?
So what?
You know, Paul McCartney, Sir Paul McCartney, Sir Mick Jagger.
Yeah.
Who else was involved? Neil Young was.
Keith Richards, The Who were there, weren't they?
Keith Richards, The Who. And
Roger Waters.
Roger Waters, that's right. And quite frankly, I mean,
he's 73.
Yeah, but I mean, wasn't it a bit geriatric, the whole thing?
Well, I didn't actually see any of the performances, but I mean,
neither did I.
I'm told it was a great event, and everybody enjoyed it.
Mick Jagger leaping around at sort of 74 years of age or whatever, and still pretending to be 24. I think, you know, it's bordering on the pathos of life. Yeah.
Well, don't forget that there was a big political message being sent out as well.
Oh, what was that?
Well, what do you think? I mean, Roger Waters apparently in the midst of when they were performing Pigs, which is from the Animals album.
Yes.
They put up a big picture of Donald Trump.
Oh, I see.
You know,
subtle.
Yeah, not very subtle.
I see the Stones performed a Beatles record for the first time ever.
Uh-huh.
It wasn't really a Beatles record, it was a John Lennon record, Come Together.
Right.
And that was sung by Mick Jagger.
Okay.
Amazingly.
It was in Indio, Southern California, held in the same place as Coachella, which is one of the big festivals that lots of people go to, right? Which you've never heard of, right?
No.
No, and they were calling it Old Cella.
Old Cella, yeah. I'd have called it Wrinkly Cella, to be honest.
Well, Old Cella's got a better sound to it. It sounds more like Coachella. Yeah. That's why they never let you write headlines, did they?
Do you know what the average age of the audience was?
What?
52.
Really?
But the average age of the performers on stage was 73.
Well, I would have gone to it if it was nearby.
Yeah.
Bob Dylan was there as well.
Bob Dylan, that's right. He wouldn't come out from behind a grand piano. He's very shy, apparently.
He is very shy.
Yeah.
I was supposed to meet him once, but he didn't come out of his dressing room.
Well, I'm not surprised. If he knew you were waiting on the other side of the door. I'm surprised he didn't hire a group of people to come and beat you up to a pulp.
Oh.
Just to improve
so you've reverted to type finally.
Yeah, to improve what you look like.
To me for an hour and a half. Right, we've got lots more coming up. We'll choose some listography, I think, next. We are the Two Mics. This is Talk Radio. There will be a podcast coming out a little bit later on. Some of you are already asking that question on Twitter. You can tweet us, of course, at the Two Mics, at Mike Parry 8 and at IROMG, or you can go on the Facebook page as well. I'm going to have to look on Facebook because I've asked people for some listography suggestions on there as well. I've got a few to go through with you, though. Here's one from Brian. Your 3 worst train journeys. Let's see. Old Tales of the USA, always good.
Yes.
Perhaps 3 best and worst excuses to have split up with a girlfriend. I don't know about that one.
Yeah.
How about the 3 most dangerous situations you ever found yourself in during your reporting years?
Yeah.
3 favourite stories you've colourfully built or made up.
Right.
That would only apply to you, of course.
Right, yes, yes. What?
If you were
What are you on about?
I quite like this one. If you were to attend a karaoke night, what 3 songs would you choose to sing?
Oh, yeah, okay. Yeah.
3 favourite scientific discoveries.
Yes.
3 favourite countries you visited.
Yeah.
3 favourite people to have a night out on the lash with.
Yeah.
3 examples of kindness you have both done for each other.
Yes.
Are there any of these catching your interest? You're just going yes to all of them.
They're all for consideration.
3 things you wished you would have done in your life.
No, I don't have any regrets about things I should have done in my life because I've done most things I wanted to do.
Have you?
Yes.
The 3 biggest idiots you've interviewed.
Yeah, well, that's an endless list.
And how about this one? Since Porky hates Bobcat Bob, what about your 3 favourite Americans?
I don't hate Bobcat Bob at all. We just like
3
to
favourite
push
Americans.
the envelope. Yeah.
3 favourite Americans might not be
Yeah,
bad.
that'd be good. Yeah.
Want to do that?
Yeah, do you want to do that?
Yeah.
Your 3 favourite Americans, okay?
Well, the next one is 3 favourite items you owned or now own.
Okay.
Yeah, I think 3 favourite Americans would be quite good.
That'll be good.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so that one was suggested by Eric.
Eric,
so we'll do that one. We'll do that one coming up in the next hour.
Indeed. Now, I want to talk to you about villages.
Okay.
Yes, because you're absolutely right. There is something very strange about villages. We touched on it, didn't we?
Well, we did.
Yeah.
Well, we're going to talk to
no, that's about the huggy, you see.
Oh, we're going to talk to Caroline Tinston from Country Living.
Exactly.
So I assumed we were talking to her about villages.
I know you did, you see. You got it completely wrong again.
What are we talking to her about?
About huggy.
Huggy.
Hooga. It's the Scandinavian thing. 10 reasons to hooga.
Well, you might want to talk a bit about that.
Scandinavian lifestyle trend.
Because we don't want to just talk to her without knowing what we're talking about.
No. We'll get round to that. We'll get round to that.
10 things you should know about hooga.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, and we'll get round to it.
Do you know any other Scandinavian words?
Not really. No.
I do, because I've been watching some of these, like The Bridge. You know The Bridge, that show I've been telling you about?
Yes, that's right.
You watched that, which is set in Sweden and Denmark.
That's right, yeah,
because
they've got that incredible bridge. The two. Yes.
And a tunnel. It's a bridge and a tunnel. Which I've got a great plan to go there one day, actually.
I thought you had been.
No, I've never been to Scandinavia.
Oh, I see. Really?
But what I want to do is get on that bridge and drive across it.
I see.
From Denmark to Sweden.
Yeah, that's right.
Because it go out, it's a bridge that becomes a tunnel.
That's right.
Which comes back out again, becomes another bridge.
Yeah,
it's fascinating.
Sounds brilliant.
Brilliant.
Anyway, listen, talking about villages, right? The evil of English villages. Now, you would think to yourself, oh, that'd be somebody who's completely anti-village and all that kind of stuff. Except that statement comes from the man who makes Midsummer Murders.
Oh, right.
He's
the writer of that.
Yeah, the writer.
Did he not come out with something which was kind of considered to be... Oh, I know what it was. Did he not come out and say something about the ethnic makeup of the show? Or was he not attacked for something for never writing in any characters?
I don't know.
I think that was what happened before.
He
was accused basically of not putting any black characters into it, and then he came out and said something like,
"But all the villages I go to are just
black people don't live there."
Yeah, that's right.
It was something like that, wasn't it?
I like the villages I portray in Midsummer Murders. Anyway, his name's Anthony Horowitz.
So what's he saying now then?
Well, he says the reason that many murder mysteries had rural settings was that everybody is hiding something in a village.
Yeah, I think there might be some truth to that.
He says. Actually, Mr. Horowitz is the man who adapted the novels, which were written by Caroline Graham.
Oh, yeah.
Not odd. Caroline Graham. We have a colleague called Caroline
We
Graham.
do indeed. I assume it's not the same person.
No, it's not the same person. He said cities weren't as suitable because the fast pace of life dissipated any enmity or ill feeling, but anger and resentment always fester in villages, right?
Yeah.
So you said you lived in this village, right?
Well, I've lived in a couple of different villages because I lived in 2 different villages in Wiltshire, which is probably the only time I've ever done that.
Right, okay. Well, you mentioned earlier a colleague called Reese, Alan Reese. Now, he lived in a tiny village called Ogbourne St Andrew.
Ogbourne St Andrew, yeah.
And it was
just
one
outside
street.
Of Marlborough.
Yeah, just outside Marlborough. It's one street.
Yeah.
So you're coming down the road from the M4, heading to Marlborough, and I would say about 3 or 4 miles before Marlborough, there's just a little sign which says Ogbourne St Andrew.
I know it very well.
And there's a pub on the corner there.
Yeah.
So you turn right and can get cut off by if the stream activates and the water's running fast, and you go...
the road gets flooded.
The road gets flooded. And you go down, there's a row of cottages on your right and a row of cottages on your left.
Yeah.
And Reese's is the first one on the left on the bend. And then... whenever I've stayed there, we've gone for a walk over the downs at the back, with the Wiltshire Downs, which is absolutely beautiful.
Lovely, yeah.
Beautiful place.
Do you see any sort of white horses anywhere?
Well, you do see all those sort of things up there.
It's like Pewsey Vale, mate.
Pewsey Vale, that's right. And it's ancient
it's
burial.
Where all the crop circles go.
That's right, yeah. Ancient burial grounds and all that sort of stuff. But anyway, the
Barrows.
Point, the Barrows. Anyway, so what he says here is, he says, Sherlock Holmes once said, "Nowhere is more evil than the English village." Now, I know Sherlock Holmes was a fictional character.
Well, I was going to say, I mean, he didn't actually exist, did he?
No, but that's what
does it
put
matter
into
what
one
he
of his
said?
books. And,
What does it matter what he said?
Well, because
it didn't exist.
Well, no, because I think what they're saying is that the author of Sherlock Holmes, Sir Ian Conan Doyle,
Arthur
Conan Doyle, sorry, Arthur Conan Doyle,
Sir Ian Conan Doyle,
the
famous.
that's right. Put that as a famous line in one of his books, Anyway, he says, so this is Mr. Horowitz saying, English villages are special places where hatred and mistrust and suspicion and anger and bitterness have a natural place to grow.
Well, sounds ideal for you then.
Well, in a city in London,
you would be the kind of guy actually that would have a sort of long-running feud with someone, wouldn't you?
Probably, but they'd probably start sending things like dead, crows down the chimney or something like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Anyway, he says in cities it's too loud. There's too many people, life's too fast. But in an English village, it can all fester so slowly.
Well, the great thing about the city is that you can be anonymous.
Yeah, of course you can.
I mean, I'm actually less bad about it now. But when I lived in New York, I used to hate the fact that anybody knew who I was, or what I did, or anything like that. I remember going when I lived on 36th Street, that place you visited with me once.
Yes.
I used to go to a newsagent around the corner to pick up the papers in the morning. And I went one morning, and the guy said, "Oh, you're late this morning."
Yeah.
What have you been up to? And I never went back. No. I was like, I'm not having my newsagent knowing what I do.
Well, I feel exactly the same if I go into a pub and somebody picks a pint glass up and starts pouring a beer before I've opened my mouth.
Yeah.
I said, what are you doing? And I always deliberately then say, I didn't want that. You didn't.
Right.
You should have waited for me to.
The usual.
Exactly. I'm not going to have people say, oh, yeah, he's a regular. You know what I mean? But I totally agree. Anyway, it says, I love the fact that in an English village, everybody's hiding something and people are far more curious about what is going on behind their neck curtains. The original novels on which Midsummer Murders were based were sold to me as Agatha Christie on acid.
Oh, really?
Yeah. They took ordinary people, old ladies on tricycles, and the vicar was often a central figure. All these stereotypes, and discovered the most appalling things about them, and everyone was up to something. If it was sex, if it was drugs, violence, or perversions. And he says that's what the English village is all about.
Yeah.
I mean, that is some accusation, really, isn't it?
Well, I think the problem with the English character, right, is that England, by its nature, people who live in villages are generally secretive. I mean, people they're not as outgoing. I mean, if you lived in a small town in America, people are much more kind of outgoing.
Of course,
you're much more likely to become friends with your next door neighbour.
That's right, yeah.
And they're going to have them over for dinner and
That's
all that
right,
sort of thing, because people come and introduce themselves and they bring you a pie.
Yeah.
I mean, I remember when my sister moved into this new house that she's got in Connecticut.
Yes.
People kept turning up with stuff.
Really?
Yeah. Like, oh, hi, neighbour, we just wanted to bring you a nice pumpkin pie. And I'd be sitting there going, and then they'd come in.
Yeah.
And inevitably, unfortunately, we're going to do our 3 favourite Americans in lithography. An awful lot of Americans are very boring.
Oh, no, yeah, they are. Bland.
And you go, do you want a drink? Oh, no, I'll just have an orange juice.
Yeah, or a soda water.
Yeah, because the ones who do drink are mad drinkers.
Yeah, that's right,
but there's nothing kind of in between.
No.
There's no real social drinkers.
I know what you mean. But, when you go into a pub and that's it, because some villages only have one pub.
Yeah.
What are you going to do if you fancy a drink one night, but you don't want some boring individual to be prattling on to you about the latest?
Well, also, do you know what's worse?
Harvest or something.
Do you know what's worse is when you go into these pubs and they all have their own mugs.
Yes.
You've seen that?
Yeah, I've seen that. Yeah.
Where they go,
there's Bill's mug.
Bill's mug.
Yeah.
And you go, oh, for God's sake! And they all sit in the same spot. So you can't sit there because that's where somebody else sits.
Mate, you won't believe this. I went into a place in a Surrey village once, and the reason I was there, what was it there? I think I'm not sure, but anyway, I was doing something locally, and I thought I'll stop at this pub for lunch, right? Because it looked like typical Surrey pub for lunch, but it was a quiet day. It's probably a Tuesday or a Wednesday or something like that. So I parked the car and ordered a pint of shandy, and then I sat on a bar stool at the bar. Well, I mean, the amount of grief I got for that, because the guy who...
Was there nobody else in the pub at the time?
It was very early. It was about 11:30, quarter to 12. By the time 12:30 came round, a crowd had gathered around me, standing so close to me, they were deliberately making me feel uncomfortable.
Really?
About my private space, my personal space.
Yeah, I hate that.
Yeah, and...
I'm not good with that.
Exactly. They're almost standing back to back with me in an empty pub. So I said, excuse me, have we got a problem here? He said, what? And he said, well, that's normally, Charlie's seat.
Right.
I said, is it? I said, who's Charlie? He said, oh, well, he's been coming in here for 53 years and something like that, And I said, all right, well, why didn't you just say so? He said, you'd prefer me to relinquish the seat, would you? Yes. Yeah, I mean, there was...
How pathetic.
I know, it was all that kind of stuff.
And was Charlie there then? Did you get to meet Charlie?
No, I went and sat down the other end of the pub, and Charlie must have turned up, but he was some drip, some boring old, has been nothing.
Right.
But I tell you where it was most apparent to me, right? Do you remember, does the name Tollis Hunt Darcy in Essex mean anything to you?
Tollis Hunt Darcy, no.
Bamba, Bamba, who killed all his family.
Yes, yeah.
And Bambi, the sister who he tried to frame for all the killings.
Derek Bamba?
No, it wasn't. I'll remember his first name in a minute. Anyway, he got a life sentence, which meant life, and he's been contesting it ever since. Right. Because his claim is that his sister, who had some psychological problems, had killed herself and her children and their parents, right? She was an adopted
But in fact,
sister.
did he not do it for the life insurance or something like that?
Well, nobody knows. I mean, he's been tried and convicted, so you can say without fear or favour, he's a killer. And
well, he's certainly been convicted as a killer.
Convicted and had appeals which have been turned down, and had case reviews and all been turned down. And one of the reasons why is they say that she couldn't possibly have blown her own head off with a shotgun because her arms weren't long enough to have pulled the trigger, if you see what I mean, and all this kind of stuff. But the cops completely screwed the case up. Yeah. When they first went there, to be told by the brother, oh, well, she's a bit mad and she's gone around shot everyone. They said, all right, thanks a lot. Then they burnt all the evidence. Right. They took all the furniture out of the house and the carpets and the blood on and all that, and just burnt it all.
Why?
I don't know. Don't
I thought it was a good idea.
It was just a hopeless police investigation, get rid of all that. I mean, these days, obviously, you're going in those white suits and get forensic evidence. No, the cop just said, look, he said, this is a bit of a mess. Take all that outside, just burn it. Literally,
Really?
They burnt all the evidence.
Amazing.
Yeah. Anyway, the point of my story is... Whilst the case was unfolding, I was sent as a young reporter to Tollis Hunt Darcy, the name of the village where Mr. Bamber came from. Yeah.
And is that where they lived?
That's where they lived. Yeah. That's where the parents' farmhouse was. That's where his little cottage was, where he drove from to the farmhouse and murdered his parents and all that kind of stuff, And, I mean, talk about, doors slamming in your face. It was remarkable. Not one single person would speak to me there. Right. And literally going in the pub, you weren't served. They would not serve
Really?
you. Are you a newspaper man?
Yeah.
And I said, what does that matter? I said, this is a pub, isn't it? It's a free country. I want a drink. Doesn't matter what I do. Yeah. Well, it does if you are,
Here's a rake over
If you're prying into the affairs of the good people of this village, we're not going to be stained by. And anyway, he's innocent and all this kind of stuff.
Really?
You know what I mean? Yeah, yeah. It was really weird, and you kind of got run out of town, really.
Yeah.
Other reporters who went there found the tires had been slashed and all this kind of stuff. Yeah.
Shocking stuff. Yeah. Very, very strange business indeed. Well, coming up, we are going to talk about the
Jeffrey
Scandinavia.
Bamber, was it?
Jeffrey Bamber,
Roger
maybe.
Bamber?
Not Roger. He was a photographer.
Oh, he was, yeah, Jeffrey.
Yeah, Roger Bamber's still around, actually.
Yes, isn't he? Yeah, Bamber. Jeremy Bamber.
That's what, isn't that what I said?
And that's what I just said. Yeah, Jeremy.
I said Jeremy Bamber. You said it wasn't his name.
No, it is.
Okay. All right. Right, we've got lots of other things to talk about. We're going to do listography and our three favourite Americans. They have to be alive, by the way, the three favourite Americans.
Oh, do they? Oh,
no,
blimey.
I'm asking you.
Oh, no, they don't have to be alive.
They don't have to be alive.
No.
Okay. Got some very, very good suggestions on Facebook, actually, for listography. Maybe we'll do those next time.
Yeah.
But a couple of other comments as well. And you can find our page just by looking for the two mics. Ronnie says this. Yeah. The weirdest village in Scotland must be New Cumnock. There is nothing new about it. It must be the most run-down and depressing place in the UK.
Really?
New Cumnock.
Well,
I think I've driven through it. Do you know how some of those Scottish sort of central belt of Scotland sort of towns and villages have got those horrible
housing estates?
Not just housing estates, but they've got that kind of grey, almost stucco kind of finish. You know, all the houses have got this.
Yeah, I know.
You know what I mean? It's not brickwork. It looks just like sort of plaster that they're covered in, and it's always a really, really depressing colour. How about this from James? A question for you guys: which is a worse indictment of these institutions? America, who considers itself the greatest country in the world, and the two best presidential candidates it can come up with are Trump and Hillary Clinton, or the Football Association of England, who considers England to be the best football country in the world. The best they can come up with is Southgate or Steve Bruce as the two managers to replace Allardyce.
Well, you know,
I mean, that's quite a good comparison, isn't it?
It's quite a good comparison.
Because a lot of people are saying that about the presidential election.
Of course they are.
Are these really the two best people that they can come up with?
Absolutely.
It's astonishing.
But that's America all through, isn't it? If you're any good in America, you don't become a politician. You go off and make yourself millions and millions of pounds. And why would you bother? I mean, Trump's done it the other way around, except we'll never really know the true story about Mr. Trump's wealth or lack of it. Never. I mean,
although, do you remember a guy called Tony Brenner, who used to work for the National Enquirer?
Yes, I do,
He put a thing on Facebook yesterday, because I'm friends with him. I think he's retired now.
Right.
But he put a thing on Facebook and said, basically, Trump is now, whatever happens, I mean, the belief is he won't get he won't win the election.
That's right.
Particularly with all of this stuff that's coming out now.
Yes.
But he might run her a close kind of second, obviously. But he was saying, he's actually kind of ruined his reputation in a way, because even though people thought he was a bit brash, and they sort of knew that some of his products didn't really stand up to scrutiny, and the Trump steaks didn't work very well.
That's right.
Trump University was shut down. But basically now he's kind of turned himself into, as you said, a parody of himself. Yeah. And so nobody will now take him seriously as an individual or as a businessman or anything.
In any way at all.
Because he's now just outright lying, isn't he? I mean, it's like Hillary saying, it's hard to believe this guy can just stand there and just lie and then lie again.
What
and
she
then
call
just carry
untruths?
No, she used a different word.
Yeah, she said... not untruths.
I had it in my head until you said untruths, and now you've knocked it out of my head.
Yeah, that's right. Misleading, something like that. Yeah. It'll come back to you.
Well, she obviously doesn't want to use the word lie.
No, that's right. Yeah, that's
falsehoods.
Right. Falsehoods. That's the word. Falsehoods. You're absolutely right.
Which is a very good word.
Yeah, of course it is. Very good word. Now, you tell me about this clown phenomenon.
Yeah, what's going on with that? I keep seeing things on Twitter from people saying that these people are dressing up as clowns and jumping out on other people.
Well, apparently they are.
Why?
Well, I don't know. I mean, it's...
is it happening all over the country?
It's happening all over the country. Reports of people... I mean, even carloads of clowns driving around late at night and then getting out the cars and standing on the roadside so that on bends, so that when people come round a bend, they see like 3 or 4 clowns standing there, like... It's stationary.
And what's the point of that?
Well, it's to shock people, and I suppose
to scare people.
Yeah, to scare people. I suppose if you want to commit some sort of offence, even if it's a socially aggressive offence or antisocial offence, best thing you do is dress up as a clown because nobody knows who you are, do they?
No, I suppose so.
So, and this is what they do. Amid reports of killer clowns threatening schools, brandishing guns, and being involved in at least one death.
What?
This is over in America.
All right.
A White House spokesman said last week this is a situation that law enforcement is taking quite seriously. But it appears to be spreading to this country.
Right.
Clowns...
so you could be walking down a street. Yeah. Some clown jumps out in front of you.
Yes, that's right. Yeah,
I think if somebody did that to me, I'd probably find myself clocking them.
Well, without a shadow of a doubt.
Just shoving them over or something.
You can imagine, I sometimes think about, when I'm in my penthouse late at night, I might be in the kitchen. If some face appeared at the window, it would shock most people. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Particularly as my roof garden is right up
that would mean he climbed up the outside of the building.
Or climbed over the fence from next door, or whatever, But I would go out there and I would get the spade and beat him, in senseless.
Well, obviously we can't condone that sort of violence.
No, but I mean, in a completely in the sense of self-defence.
Yes,
that's what I mean.
Yeah, but I don't think clocking somebody with a spade is entirely the way to go.
Well, it shouldn't be in my roof garden.
You might kill them though.
Anyway, look, it says here, clowns have been chasing people with knives. This is in this country. Even machetes, menacing them with
chasing them with knives.
Yeah. They've been spotted hanging around in graveyards and on remote roadsides where they are momentarily caught in the headlights of passing cars to shock and stun drivers. Reports are filtered through the unreliable forum of social media, often backed by creepy footage of dimly lit masked figures and screaming witnesses. In some of these,
that's all very odd, isn't it?
Yeah, in some of this, it appears everyone involved is in on the joke.
Right. But how bizarre is that?
Well,
because we drive around and walk around at strange times of the day and night.
We do.
If I was driving, it probably would make you jump, wouldn't it? If you drove around a corner and suddenly saw a clown standing in the middle of the road.
Indeed. Here, listen to this. Just found another report here. On Tuesday in Clacton-on-Sea, Essex, 2 more clowns asked a pair of schoolgirls if they wanted to come to a birthday party. When the girls declined, the clowns drove off in a black van. Parents' anxiety was further increased by reports of clowns hanging round near the local high school sports field. The school was subsequently put on lockdown. Similarly, schools in Liverpool were on red alert after a group of creepy clowns on social media threatened to target the youngsters. And in County Durham, a knife-wielding man in a clown mask chased 4 children aged 11 and 12.
What is wrong with these people?
As they walked to school.
Some people are frightened of clowns anyway, aren't they?
Yeah.
There's a name for it, I think, isn't there?
I think there is a fear of clowns, yeah. Do you remember the start of a James Bond film which involved a clown trying to escape his pursuers and he couldn't get over the final fence?
I think so, yeah.
And that was the one with the circus in it, so that must have been the Grace Jones one.
What, the one with Christopher Walken?
Yes.
Wasn't that the Duran Duran?
Yes,
the song for,
yes, with a View to a Kill.
View to a
Kill, I think it was that one.
Was there a clown in that?
Well, I'm sure it opened with a clown trying to get away, and the bit where the gun fires and then the blood runs down the screen, and you see James Bond in the eye of the storm.
That was Roger Moore, wasn't it?
That was Roger Moore. That's right. Yeah, I'm sure it was that one. And that was all based about the circus being a creepy place, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because people dressing up in gorilla masks and all that kind of stuff.
Here we go. Coulrophobia, apparently.
What's it called?
Is a fear of clowns. Coulrophobia. Coulro.
Yeah.
Coulrophobia.
It's a real thing, is it? Yeah. No, did you ever like the circus as a child?
I didn't particularly, no. And in fact, I took my kids years ago, my older kids, to the circus. It came to Devizes in Wiltshire.
Yes.
And it was one of those circuses that travelled and obviously didn't involve animals anymore because it was a sort of ethical circus.
Yes, indeed,
right? And I remember sitting, and it was quite a weird experience because we went one day after school,
right?
I think. So it was like a sort of 4:30 showing or something. And there was only about 10 people.
Really?
In the tent.
On the whole of the big top?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so in some ways it was cool because you thought, well, they're just doing like a private sort of show for us.
Yeah.
But it was kind of weird because you'd see we were sitting very close, and so you'd see the clowns close up. And I remember they had this stupid car that kept sort of blowing up.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
And they kept making it, and it made this horrendously loud bang.
Right, yeah.
You know, which actually was quite off-putting.
Well,
and it was cold and sort of windy.
Well,
and it wasn't a pleasant experience at all.
The last circus I went to had polar bears.
Really?
So, and I took my niece and nephew, so that must be 20 years ago, okay?
What did the polar bears do?
Well, they just stood on these boxes. It was terrible. It was awful. I mean, imagine carting a polar bear around the country in the back of a caged lorry, you know what I mean? Which is basically what they do.
And did they have them on leads?
No, I mean, they'd been forcibly trained to...
Because, I mean, they're dangerous, polar bears.
Oh, very dangerous, yeah, but they've been forcibly trained to respond to their... they've been tortured, basically, to respond to their trainers and that kind of stuff. But the things that to me, the circus is grubby, dirty... Smells of animals. This one did, you know what I mean? It smelt of the animals. You smell the horses.
I don't think I'd ever want to go to another one.
No, and seahorses galloping around in the ring and all these people, doing acrobats on the back of horses and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Not for me at all.
No.
The only circus I would go to now would be something like at the O2, and most of it was happening above you, with trapeze artists.
Like the Cirque du Soleil.
Yeah, that's right, and all that kind of stuff. But I wouldn't want to see all that.
I think that's pretty impressive. I've seen it on TV. I've never seen it
I haven't.
live.
But no,
the general kind of travelling circus thing.
And if you get close up to clowns, by the way, all their costumes are usually filthy. They don't seem to ever get washed or anything, and that kind of stuff. In fact, funny enough, the other
time, by the way.
Yeah, don't worry about that. We're in London and we're quite near to East London, so I don't want to be offensive to anybody. But I had an occasion once to do a story involving a pearly king and queen, right? One of these like East End gangster funerals or something. You know what I mean? Something like that. And I have to. The thing that struck me was how filthy the suits and the dresses were for the pearly kings and queens.
Well, I suppose it's hard to wash.
They can't wash them. They're made of pearl buttons.
It's like my barber.
Yeah,
can't wash that either.
Oh, your barber? I thought you'd had it done.
Yeah, no, I have, but you can't wash it, though.
No, you can't wash it.
Re-waxed.
No. But these suits, they'd had them for like 30 years, apparently. They just passed down from one generation to another. And you just can't clean them, apparently. They're all these filthy buttons and all that kind of, ridiculous, like John Lennon hat.
They smell bad as well.
Well, the whole thing was rather unpleasant, you know what I mean?
Did you have any jelly deals while you were
there? No jelly deals, no. Apparently, eels are now returning to the trendy restaurant menus.
I've had, I can tell you a bit about eels. It's very good. Smoked eels, beautiful.
Smoked eel.
Really nice as a starter.
It has a bone in the middle of it, doesn't it? Which you can get stuck in your mouth.
No, it doesn't.
Yeah, it does.
Rubbish. Absolute rubbish.
Yeah.
Anyway, we're running far too late.
Okay.
We got listography coming up. Our 3 favourite Americans. I think. Did we say they have to be alive?
No, they don't have to be alive. Don't have to be alive.
So they could be dead.
Yes.
Good afternoon, I'm Mike Graham, he's Mike Parry, you're listening to The Two Mikes. We're back on Talk Radio for this week only. John Holmes is away, we're not sure where he's gone, we don't know whether he's on holiday, but I'm sure we'll find out soon enough. No doubt he'll be late for his show when he comes back next week, of course. Lots more to come. Donald, our good friend up in Glasgow, who's putting us on up at the garage, says that he and his family went to see Cirque du Soleil in Las Vegas, and they all fell asleep.
Yeah, probably bladderated.
But he's not a very cultured guy.
No,
he's not the sort of guy you'd expect to enjoy the circus.
I mean, to him,
sort of,
culture is having mashed potato with his haggis.
By the way, yesterday, I was putting out quite a few tweets and you were making remarks about them, by the way. I'm going to talk to you about this, because I was making some meatballs yesterday.
Oh, yes,
which were fantastically good. You
yes.
forget how good they are.
I have to say, the pictures of them look good.
And a guy actually tweeted me from Scotland and said, have you ever tried lasagna with haggis? Can you imagine what that would taste like?
Well, not that
you
much
tried some
different
haggis,
to ordinary lasagna, really, because they're in between the leaves.
So instead of the meat,
you'd have haggis.
you'd have haggis.
Well, that's not that different. I don't
Well,
think.
you tasted haggis fritters, didn't you, when you
I
were up
did,
in Edinburgh?
I like them. Yeah.
Did you?
I couldn't eat them every day, to be honest. I think they're an acquired taste.
Haggis has got a nice flavour to it.
It's a very nice flavour.
But you're
to
right,
it.
you can't eat it a lot. You can't eat
No.
it every day.
No.
Although, if you're in Scotland and you're staying in a hotel or something,
Yes.
you're on a job, you have this full Scottish breakfast, you get a little bit of haggis every morning.
Well, I prefer it for dinner with a spoonful of whiskey and what do they call it? The other
Neeps.
Neeps.
Turnips.
It's turnips. That's right. Yeah, turnips.
Turnips and mashed potato.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I prefer it that way. And but I could do that once a week if I, as a special treat sort of thing. I mean,
you can buy haggis here now.
Oh yeah, no, yeah.
the supermarket.
I would only have, an Indian once a week. I'd only have a Chinese once a week. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And haggis would fall into that.
Do you know
sort of
what's
category.
interesting, actually? Since I've started cooking my own curries.
Oh yes.
I don't really. I mean, there used to be. You're quite right. There used to be a time when I would go for a curry at least once a week.
Yeah, exactly.
Because you'd sort of crave it.
Yeah, exactly.
Whereas now, I don't anymore.
No.
And I don't go to any restaurants really at all.
No, really? Why is that?
Well, because now I make curry at home. So whenever
Well,
I've
how
made
often do you make it?
I probably once every couple of weeks.
That's
maybe.
what I mean. That's what I mean. Do you know what? In the newspaper business in Fleet Street, if you didn't go to a curry house or a Chinese at least once a week, there was something missing in your makeup.
Yeah.
Do you remember the Chinese?
Well, it was always where you ended up as well, wasn't it? You know, at the end of the night.
Do you remember the Chinese?
Do you remember the Indian place where we were asked to tone our language down?
Where was that?
It was in Covent Garden.
Oh,
Many years ago, yeah.
I thought it was in New York.
It was you and I and a colleague of ours who's still in the business, whose name shall remain secret.
Oh, okay, yeah, fine, yeah.
And works for the Standard now.
That's right, yes.
And we were all kind of fairly exacerbated about something or other that had been going on.
Yeah.
And apparently the other diners were complaining.
That's right.
That there was a lot of swearing
yes,
going
that's right.
on. And they were asking the waiters if they could move away from us. And as the evening went on, we were left alone at the end of the restaurant
further and further away
on this table, and everybody else had moved up the other end of the restaurant.
But we were spending enormous amounts of money because it was all on the expenses.
That's
accounts.
right.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, but do you remember the Chinese right opposite that was in? It's been knocked down now, along with all those shops.
Oh, what, you one just around in that funny sort of shopping area?
That's right. Yeah. I mean, we used to go in there all the time. And I used to. The minute I walked in, the guy would come over and greet me warmly. Oh, Mr. Parry, Mr. Parry.
Yeah.
I will get your lemon chicken started right away. Because I always had lemon chicken.
Well, did you not say, excuse me, I don't like the usual.
Well, no,
I'd rather you actually, waited for me to order.
No, I was quite happy.
So you're completely inconsistent then?
Oh, I was quite happy to be regarded as a star there because all the other diners used to look up to me, you know what I mean? This guy's something special about him. Well, of course it was, because I was the news editor of the Daily Express across the road, you see. And then there was the one in Epsom when the Royal Diplomatic Squad...
Oh, was this the episode with the teapot?
Yes, that's right. No. This was when the Royal Diplomatic Squad threatened to arrest me and a colleague because we fell out over a bet on the Epsom Derby that afternoon, claiming one of us owed the other one a lot of money, and got up and started swinging at each other.
Oh, God.
And a guy leaned over the next table. He said, if you two don't sit down, he said, you'll be in trouble. And we said, what's it got to do with you?
Yeah.
Started poking him in the chest. You're a big guy, are you? He said, I'm not particularly big guy. He said, but I'm the head of the Royal Protection Squad to look after the Queen. So if you don't shut up, you're arrested.
You're under arrest.
Oh, right. Okay.
Brilliant.
Thank you.
How about this from Steve, who's tweeted out the two mates? He says, I'm with Porky on taking a spade to an intruder, and he's from Middlesbrough. So I suppose that might explain a lot. Here's one from Mark, who says, I wish to report a clown. Heard one yesterday on Clash of the Titans on Talk Sport.
Actually,
he's referring to you.
No, there were three of them in the room and me.
Yeah, right.
There were three clowns and me.
Nigel says, I'm originally from Peasmarsh in Sussex. To be a local in the village takes 2 generations.
Does it? Yeah, well, it wouldn't surprise me. I know Peasmarsh, actually.
Do you?
Yeah, I don't know why I know it, but I do kind of know it.
Now, Rob says, I totally agree with Porky Ray, the pre-pint pouring point he made.
Yes.
Some bar staff get very slack. They should ask every time.
Yeah, exactly. Of course they should.
And Stenner says, I particularly like Sir Ian Conan Doyle's Bill of the Baskervilles.
Yeah, Bill of the Baskervilles. That's right, yeah.
Hey, by the way, got some bad news for you in light of what we were talking about animals. Yeah, the last fish has gone.
Oh, so have you got an empty aquarium?
Yep.
Well, why don't you restock it?
Well, because there's no will for that, apparently.
Oh, really? Don't know any more fish?
Well, the kids don't really care.
Well, I mean, surely you had them for your children in the first place.
Well, we did. And then we got a dog. So first we got the fish.
I see.
And now they love the dog. They don't really care about the fish.
Oh, really?
So they've kind of, I mean, the idea was that they would learn about sort of, because you're supposed to get pets for children, where they learn about death.
Sure, I see. Yeah,
and the cycle of life and all that.
Oh,
sort of
really?
thing.
I didn't know that.
Oh, yeah, yeah, because they have to know that things die.
Yeah, I see.
You know, because eventually I'll die.
So what are you
their mother will die.
Yeah, well, that's true.
You know,
they'll be grown up then, hopefully.
Well, yeah, but that's why the whole process of seeing your pet die is supposed to be kind of educational.
So what are you going to put in your aquarium now?
Well, I don't know.
You're going to throw it out?
Well, it's not really my decision, you see. These kind of decisions are not made by me. They're made by the mother of my children.
Why don't you get a...
I suggested we got... Because you can buy fake fish.
That's what I mean.
You know,
I was going to say,
are kind of suspended.
You know, get a toy crab
that
has flashing lights on it, you know, and jumps up and down and all that kind of stuff. No, seriously.
Why would you want a toy crab?
Well, because it'll be fun to look at. You know what I mean? You press a button and activate it, and it swims around a bit and all that kind of stuff.
I mean, the other thing people suggest is you can just put a fish tank on the TV because, you know, you can get these, like, it's almost like a screensaver.
Yes.
And it's an actual fish, you know, like a tropical fish tank.
Oh, I see, yes.
And you can watch it on the TV.
I suppose you could, yeah.
I mean, the trouble is, it's quite sort of labour-intensive to have fish because you have to keep cleaning the tank.
Yeah, exactly. And it gets mucky, doesn't it?
And of course, I never did that, and the kids never did it. So it was only the mother of my children that would always end up having to clean it.
Absolutely.
So I mean, even yesterday, when it finally sort of took its last breath, as it were, even though I know they don't really breathe.
Have you buried it or what?
Well, I'm not sure what's happened because
throw it out, don't you?
Well, the thing was, the kids were out playing because it was quite a nice day. We'd come out from the beach and they were out on their skateboards or bikes or something, and so their mother was trying to get them back in so that we could have a sort of ceremony.
Yes.
For
the fish.
Yeah.
They didn't know the fish was dead then.
Well, they knew it was on its last legs.
Didn't seem to care very much about your fish, your children
either. No, they're quite
seem
cruel.
to have inherited your, your streak of inhumanity.
Well, so we wanted to try and give it like a eulogy of some kind, but they never came in until dinner was ready.
So they couldn't care less.
No. And so by the end of dinner, I'm sorry to report that sort of sense had gone out the window due to
along with the goldfish,
certain glasses of wine.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
and so the fish was still in the tank this morning.
No,
as I left,
you've got a dead corpse of a fish floating around in your fish tank.
Well, no, it's not floating; it's just kind of just stuck on the bottom of it.
Well, get it out and show the poor animal some dignity in death.
It's not an animal; it's a fish, right?
Well, it's a fish; it's a species.
Yeah,
as Keith used to say.
So I think it was going to be disposed of during the course of the day.
Oh dear! Listen, it's very sad.
I'm quite sad about it.
Yeah, well, you know, it's a sad day when your last goldfish dies.
Yeah.
It's also a sad day actually because it's the anniversary of the death of Kirsty MacColl.
Ah, yes.
Now, I mean, we'll be cutting all the Christmas records up soon, won't we? Because Christmas is coming, and of course, one of the most famous is something of New York. What's it called?
Fairy Tale of New York.
Fairy Tale of New York.
Well, you know who produced that, don't you?
Was it your
Steve Lillywhite?
Steve Lillywhite.
Well, he was married to her.
What?
He was her husband.
Who?
Kirsty MacColl.
What? The Steve Lillywhite that we talk to on this show all the time, who's one of the world's most famous record producers. Was married to Kirsty MacColl?
Yes.
Well, I didn't know that.
But not at the time she died. They'd already split up.
Oh, they had split up.
She was on holiday in Mexico.
That's right.
And she was very, very tragically hit by an idiot on a
in a
jet
boat.
ski.
And he got you £30 fine.
Yeah.
No, it says here, the Croydon-born singer-songwriter, she was from Croydon.
Yeah.
Most famous for duetting with Shane MacGowan on the Pogues' Christmas hit Fairy Tale of New York.
Yeah.
Though, like many famous duets, the pair recorded their vocals in different recording studios.
Well, funnily enough,
all the time, doesn't it?
I mean, I've spoken to Steve about this,
right,
and it was his idea to put her on the record because originally he was working with the Pogues and he was doing this show. He was doing some live shows with them. They were doing a new album, and because he knew that she had such a great voice, he said, you know, what this song needs
is a lift.
Is a voice like Kirsty MacColl, and so he was the one that made the decision to put her on it.
I see.
And it's now the most iconic Christmas song of all time.
Of course it is, yeah. And he says they recorded the vocals in different recording studios. The man at the controls of the powerboat says it was a powerboat.
Oh, was it a powerboat? I thought it was a jet ski.
The man at the controls of the powerboat that killed her while she was diving with her teenage children in Mexico walked free from court after being fined £61.
Unbelievable.
That's terrible,
yeah.
isn't it?
Well, I tell you what, I mean, whenever I'm in one of those resorts, I mean, I was
Yes.
in Mexico last summer,
Yes.
and they've got jet skis, and I took my son out on one for his birthday
right.
for the first time, and they've got these ropes where they say, you know,
That's right,
and I think that was a case where he'd gone inside the ropes,
something like
where
that,
people were swimming. You're not supposed to go, but it's not policed at all,
No.
you know. And I mean, I'm always
It's
worried
terrible.
when you see, because a lot of people get on jet skis and things, and they behave like complete idiots.
That's right.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's a shocking tale.
Yeah, it was a shocking story. So Steve and Kirsty MacColl had been separated, divorced, or whatever.
Yes, and she was with, I don't know if they've got kids together, but she was with her new partner anyway.
Right, okay,
on holiday in Mexico, I think, with kids, but I'm not sure if they were their kids, is what I don't know.
So, hang on, did Steve marry her as a result of putting her on the Pogues record, or was he already married?
I think they had already been together for a while, or they might have even have split up by then. I'm not sure.
That's
but
amazing.
yeah, it's an incredible thing. Yeah, very sad story. And
It's
we
a
will
great-
be. I mean,
great
it's one of those
story.
songs actually that when you play it, it always reminds me of New York.
Oh, of course it
first
does.
of all, but
Of course
also
it does.
it reminds you. Just I could play it all year round.
That's right.
It's
I
not
agree.
just a Christmas song.
I agree. It's the way that they strike out at each other, isn't it? And they're actually attacking each
bit
other
like
in
you and
song,
I,
aren't
really.
they? That's right. Yeah, absolutely.
Maybe we should do a version of it.
Yeah, good idea.
We'll get Steve to produce it.
Yes.
What do you think?
Yes, I think that's a great idea.
This is Talk Radio. We are the two mics. We've got some exciting news to tell
We certainly
the
have.
audience in a little while,
Yep.
but not just yet because
Okay.
we're going to hold on to it for a moment
Right,
and
okay.
announce something coming up
Okay.
before the end of the show. It's a very funny picture that Rob has posted of me, MG the curry chef,
seen that.
or has Porky's phone just caught fire. And
Yeah.
I don't know how people do this. I don't know.
Looks like your pants have caught fire, to be
well,
honest.
no, I'm holding a pan that's on fire, basically.
Yes,
but,
that's right,
But
yeah.
it's quite funny. People do some amazing things on Twitter now with, the way that they can manipulate.
Well, that's
photographs
why
and all
Lewis
that kind of
Hamilton
thing.
got himself into so much trouble
Yeah.
over the weekend
Yeah.
with that Snapchat stuff.
Although-
Was it Snapchat, was it?
Snapchat, yeah. Although there's a story about trolls which I want to bring to your attention.
Oh, yes.
Because they're trying to outlaw or make it now punishable by a fine or criminal charge.
Yes, I've seen that, yeah.
Because people sometimes Photoshop what is rather an unsavoury
Yes.
thing onto somebody's Twitter. So we'll get into that a little bit later on. Because right now, we've got to talk about hygge, haven't we?
Yes, we certainly have.
Caroline Tilston is from Country Living,
Yeah.
and she's going to be talking to us about this. Caroline, a very good afternoon to you.
Hello. I'm from House Beautiful.
Oh, are
House
you?
Beautiful. That's
I'm
right.
going to put you right.
How does it go from country? How does it get from House Beautiful to Country Living? Have you ever worked for Country Living?
Probably, yeah. I've written
Well, you see, you see.
But the art, the hygge stuff and the stuff I do regularly is House Beautiful.
Oh, is it really? That's great. And
What's the
what
difference between House Beautiful and Country Living?
Different sort of readership. Oh, God. House Beautiful is very practical.
Is it?
You're putting me on the spot here.
No,
I
no,
Well, you
don't
started it.
No, no.
Country living is for people who live in the country in beautiful big houses.
Right, I
House
see.
Beautiful is for normal, ordinary people like you and me.
That's great.
Okay.
Now, how much do you know?
What makes
How
you
much
think
do you
I'm
know?
ordinary?
Yeah, how much do you know, Caroline, about hygge? You've got to explain it to us and what it's all about, please.
All right, hygge is a great idea. It comes from the Nordic countries, and it's the art of living cozy.
Yes.
It's about feeling good about yourself, feeling good about what you're doing, making things beautiful, making things just so, taking that extra bit of effort, but then feeling really pleased with yourself.
And how do you do this?
The smug art of hygge. You make things beautiful. You, when you make a cup of coffee, don't just make it anyway. You put it in your favourite cup, and you put it on a nice doily. You light some candles. You put on your favourite slippers, which are
But hang on, that's just
gorgeous.
normal behaviour, isn't it? That's what I
Oh,
mean.
you don't have a doily for
is
your
that what
coffee,
you-
do you?
No, well, I have a favourite cup. Yeah.
Is that what you do every day? If you're doing it, you are huggering. And well done,
Right.
you.
Yeah, but I mean-
it's very self-conscious, though. It's about, yes, this is the nicest it could be. It's smug.
Is it
smug
about
hygge,
sort of
yeah.
pampering yourself then?
It's not so much pampering. It's about every day, the things you do every day.
Hmm.
So you have a bath, but don't have a bath. Put bubble bath in it and light the candles. It's all about the candles.
I do that.
Everything
Yeah.
is about the candles. Every bath you have, you need to have candles.
Okay. Well, I've got one
I
here.
don't always do that, to be fair.
No,
I
no.
sometimes get in the bath after one of my kids has got out of it.
Yeah.
Oh, don't. No.
I do.
No. I've got one here.
That's not hygienic.
It's not. Now,
What are you saying? My kids are filthy? They
None at all.
don't have any
Oh,
communicable diseases.
Now, Caroline, I've got one here.
know,
I've got an aspect of hygge here, which my colleague and I will probably approve of, but you haven't mentioned it to us. Now, it's called Sing for Your Supper, okay? So what you do is they bring the smorgasbord to the table, and then they give you a large glass of something called aquavit.
Oh, aquavit, that's great stuff,
Yeah,
that is.
Scandinavian botanical
Rocket
spirit,
fuel.
like gin, but better.
Yes.
And then everybody around the table starts singing Snap Visa, which is a drinking song, and what you do is you sing and drink at the same time while eating off the smorgasbord. Now that sounds a bit more like it.
That is good, but I mean the English equivalent of that is joining a local choir, really.
What?
That doesn't sound like half as much fun.
No.
No, but singing, being with people. I've been thinking about it. The main thing is it Snapchatable? If you were to take a picture of it, would you be happy with what you're showing the world? And And so you're making a memory that you're happy to look back on and think, oh, that was really good.
Yeah.
Yeah?
See, that's interesting, isn't it? Because now we live in this age where everybody wants to share everything that they're doing, you know, whether you're on Facebook or Snapchat, as you say, or on Twitter. And I do that quite a lot. I take quite a lot of pictures of the food that I'm cooking. I take quite a lot of pictures of walking the dog and all that kind of thing. And it's amazing how many people will give you some kind of negative vibe back, you know? Like, if you take a picture of something going on in the garden, someone will say, it's time you cut your grass. You know what I mean? I always get quite negative feedback sometimes.
You need to get better friends. That's what you need to do. You need to get some Danish friends who are going to be all supportive.
And these are not friends of mine. They're just people that follow me on Twitter.
All right. Just vague people.
Yeah, just random people that listen to the radio show.
It is lovely though. It's the whole thing is a bit like mindfulness. Do you know that whole mindfulness? That was last year.
Mindfulness, that was last year, yeah.
Yeah, that was last year. But this is very practical. This is very Scandi. It's kind of taking mindfulness but giving you a set of instructions on how to do it. So you do it very practically.
And I mean, does everyone in Scandinavia do this then?
Apparently so. They are very happy people.
Yeah. Because I'm just looking at Theresa May on the TV. She's in Copenhagen for bilateral talks. And I wonder whether she'll be giving any tips about it.
I reckon everybody around her will be secretly smiling in their smug, hoogie way.
Okay, now listen to this, please, Caroline, because this is another aspect I've got from a book here. It says, how to have a great huggy day, okay? What you do is...
Hugga, isn't it?
Yeah, hugga, yeah.
It's not huggy.
Yeah, hugga. It says, hunting is a popular pastime in Scandinavia involving a long waiting game where for an entire day you can be spent sitting alone and completely still in the forest and you don't see any animal at all. You are simply breathing, listening to your breathing and concentrating. This is huggy too.
Are you doing that now, Caroline?
Yeah, the feeling.
I am. I'm doing it.
Yeah, the feeling of being content amongst nature without breaking sweat. Research has found that being in the park or forest environment lowers stress levels, increases energy, boosts self-esteem, and makes you feel less angry. Well, I mean, that's for an idle person.
That
I couldn't
sounds like
do that.
fishing, doesn't it?
Yeah,
you just sit in a place and nothing happens for hours.
Yeah, that's like being in a queue on the M25. You've got to kind of just translate it to our environment. Yeah, so
it's not like being in a queue on the M25. Honestly, a queue on the M25 drives me mad.
No, but that's the point. If you were fully huggy, you wouldn't be. You'd be in one with your environment. You can see those trees over there. You can pretend that you're waiting.
Yeah, but nothing's happening. You're wasting your life.
See, the problem, Caroline, with my colleague here. The problem with my colleague here is he's a workaholic, right? He doesn't like to do nothing. He's not able to relax. He's never been at one with himself unless he's absolutely as busy can be.
Yeah. Well, I think you need to just get more within yourself and appreciate what's going on around you.
Really?
You know, well, yeah.
Well, I mean, sitting in the middle of a forest, staring into the distance, doing nothing
Why
for
not?
8 or 9 hours a day.
There's not many forests around here, so I'm trying to make it more practical for you.
Well, do you know what? I think this is why huggy works where you are in Scandinavia, because you see...
It's not in Scandinavia.
No, because...
I'm in Essex.
Oh, are you Essex? All right. Well, that's nearer to Scandinavia than where we are.
It's on the way.
Yeah, it's right. Yeah,
well done, Nordic.
Yeah, that's right. But what I'm saying is, the reason these Scandinavians like huggy is because they can go into their log cabins, shut the door, wait for a 6-foot snowdrift to build up outside.
Why do you live under the misapprehension that these sort of stereotypes exist? People don't live in log cabins in Scandinavia.
And with a roaring log fire in the grate and all drinking this aquavit and all that, getting bladderated on that, they can say, oh, this is very huggy today.
Hugger.
It is snow outside and it is warm inside. Hugger.
But you've got it's hugger.
Hugger.
You've got to translate it. You've got to translate it to your own environment. That's something. You're not going to have the forest. You're not going to have the cabin. Yeah. But you need to do it in your own way. If you've got a shed, maybe you could use.
He doesn't even have a garden.
A shed.
Oh.
Well, people go and sit in their sheds for 9 hours a day, staring out the window. Oh, look! I'm watching the grass grow.
Build a fire in your garden, maybe, and you've got roaring logs.
Yeah,
my colleague does.
I love a fire in the garden. See, I'm much more in touch with this, I think, than my colleague is here. Yeah. But is this something that you can do with other people, or is it kind of selfish pursuit?
No, I think a lot of the hugga stuff is about enjoying friends, enjoying company. So have people around for dinner, sit around, watch a TV program. But, you're doing it together and you're thinking, isn't this wonderful?
Yes.
Put your favourite socks on, something like that.
Put your favourite socks on, but I always put my favourite socks on.
What are your favourite socks?
Well, I've got 25 pairs of dark blue socks. And
dark blue?
Yeah.
Well, how do you know which one's your favourite then?
Well, because they're all the same.
So they're all your favourites?
Yeah, they're all my favourites. Yeah.
You need to get some outrageously expensive lamb's wool ones or something. Those will be the ones that are your hugger socks. Something that feels
what were those
so
socks
good
you were
when
telling me about? The bamboo socks?
Yeah,
those are the new thing, aren't they?
Yeah, that's right. Do you know about those?
Bamboo's good.
Caroline?
Yeah,
bamboo socks.
good. Yeah, they're very soft, very soft.
So if you were to be absolutely and utterly honest with us, Caroline, which I'm not suggesting you haven't been up to now, would you say that since you've been practising hugger, that you are a generally happier person?
Yes. Honestly, God is my witness. I am happier because I'm thinking every day about how to make things that just annoy you. Like my shower curtain has always annoyed me. I've hated it.
Yeah.
And I've changed it.
Quite
it's
right.
only a tiny bit of effort.
And has it made your...
now,
again, I'm sorry if I'm assuming something here, but has it made your relationship better?
No.
No.
I've been married for 26 years. Nothing's going to change.
Did you say you painted your shower curtain?
No, she changed the
Oh,
shower
changed
curtain.
it. Sorry, I thought it was a
Did you
bit
paint a shower
Yeah.
curtain?
Well, exactly. I couldn't work that one out. Yeah.
Do you know, when I lived in New York once, I had this terribly small apartment. The bed was like on top of a load of drawers, so
Right, okay.
you couldn't sit up in bed because you banged your head in the ceiling.
Scottish
and it
style.
had a black shower curtain, like Psycho. And I could never get in the shower without thinking somebody was going to attack me with a knife.
Yeah, that's right.
It's horrible.
Well, listen, Caroline, I want to thank you very much indeed for coming on. You've sounded rather breathless during the course of our interview. Is that because you're overwhelmed with the effect that Huggy has on you?
No, I'm overwhelmed with you two. I'm so
Marvellous.
pleased to be.
Well, that's very kind
Quite
of you.
right,
Thank you
too.
very much
I thought
indeed.
maybe you're on a Stairmaster or something.
Yeah, that's right. But anyway, look, it's great to have you enlighten us. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you, Caroline,
Lovely.
from
All right,
House
thank
Beautiful,
you.
right?
Yes, indeed.
Caroline Tilston there,
Excellent.
from House Beautiful. It's a very fine magazine.
Huggy.
Hugger.
Hugger.
It's Hugger.
Hugger.
It's not Huggy. It's
Hugger,
Hugger.
Hugger.
We are the Two Mics. This is, of course, Talk Radio. There will be a podcast coming out a little bit later on. We are here all week until Thursday afternoon, anyway, not Friday. And then we're back in Talk Sport, of course, on Saturday. Actually, not this week. We're on Sunday, aren't we?
We're on
Quite
Sunday.
hard. I mean,
Sunday.
even I'm having trouble keeping up now.
What time on Sunday?
I think it's 1 to 4 on
1 to
Sunday.
4, okay, that's great.
So we'll
Yeah,
get that
yeah.
sorted out. Now, we're going to do listography very, very shortly. I just wanted to ask you something. You were talking about aquavit there.
Yes.
Have you ever had that?
No.
It's really like
I don't think
rocket
so.
fuel
I've
type
been to
stuff.
Scandinavia a few
I'm
times.
surprised
but I
somebody
don't
didn't offer it to you. The other drink I was going to ask you about,
Yes.
because it reminded me of something that some friends of mine used to do,
Yes.
is kummel. Have you ever had that?
What's it called?
Kummel.
No.
It's a Dutch drink, right?
Is it?
Kummel.
No, I don't know that one. No.
Sweet colourless liqueur flavoured with caraway seed, cumin and fennel. But I used to play golf with a guy, right? He
Yeah.
worked in the city.
Right.
And he used to carry a bottle of this stuff in his golf bag.
Really?
And we'd go around the golf course,
Yeah.
and it literally is like, rocket fuel. It's
Yeah.
made, it was apparently first made by Lucas Bols, who I assume is the guy from Bols Advocaat.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
Back in the 16th century. But this stuff is so strong.
Yeah.
And we'd get to about the 15th or 16th hole.
Yes.
And he literally could barely walk.
Was he gone?
Well, we used to play this game
Yeah.
where you would have
The swig on who won the
no,
the
you
hole
wouldn't.
or
No, it
something?
was you had basically a swig for every foot that you could move the ball.
Right.
So it was a kind of a dopey kind of betting game, right?
Well, hang on. You moved the ball quite a few feet around a golf course.
Well, no, I don't mean. No, I mean if it landed somewhere you didn't like it,
Right.
right, and
Yeah.
say it was in a bunker,
Yes.
and you wanted to move it out of the bunker,
Yes.
and play the next shot without penalty,
Right.
You could lift the ball out of the bunker,
Right.
put it a foot away,
Yes.
and then you'd have to take a swig of this Kummel stuff.
I see.
And for example, if you ended up, say, a foot away
So
from
you
the...
were deliberately smashing the ball all over the place.
No, not at all. No,
No?
no.
No.
But I mean, as
So you could swig the old,
Kummel went down,
the
sometimes
firewater.
the golf got a lot worse. No, but say for example, you landed a foot, say 2 feet away from the hole.
Yeah.
You could take a swig and move it closer to the hole,
Oh.
so that you could putt it in.
Ah, okay.
But it became a sort of
Well,
ridiculous.
from 2 feet, you had to move it closer. What kind of a golfer were you?
Well, this was a game.
Yeah,
Well,
yeah.
this is a way to make golf more interesting.
I see.
You know,
Oh, yeah, it's very interesting.
You have no interest in this kind of thing, do you?
Yeah, well,
Because you have no athletic aptitude, despite the fact that you claim to have been,
Yes,
the master of ceremonies up at King's School Chester for
Yes.
football,
Yeah.
badminton, tennis, rowing.
Well, I never said anything about
wrestling,
badminton.
boxing.
No.
You were the sort of state champion of everything.
I had
I
a
mean,
very
the
good
whole
track
point about
record.
golf is that it's supposed to be a fun game, and so sometimes
Yes.
you introduce
Fun elements
fun
to
elements
it.
into
Yeah.
it, just
Oh,
so that
yeah,
you're not
yeah.
just playing the same old boring stuff over and over and over again.
Honestly.
Anyway, should we do listography?
Yeah, let's do listography.
We're going to do it on our 3 favourite Americans. Have you picked 3 favourite Americans?
Yes.
Have you?
Yes.
Well, why don't you go first then?
Okay, mine are very predictable.
Right, we'll just do them one at a time.
Okay, my first one is Elvis Presley.
Elvis Presley?
Without a shadow of a doubt.
All right.
Because
Is he alive or dead?
He's dead, obviously.
Well, no, hang on. I mean, that was not a stupid question.
Well,
some people think he's still alive.
Oh, no, he died in about 1974, I think, or 75, and he died from choking on a bit of peach in his bathroom, apparently, although we'll never probably really know. And he was only 40, I think, wasn't he? Same age as John Lennon.
Yeah.
Yeah, but anyway, the point...
He died eating hamburgers, right? Is that what you said?
No, he was killed over on in his bathroom, and he'd eaten something.
But was he not supposed to be eating hamburgers at the time or something?
Well, I mean, he was supposed to be taking loads of pills at the time and all sorts of things. We'll never really know the truth, I don't think. But anyway, the point is, to me, he was the original American icon. You know, Elvis Presley represented the explosion of American culture and science and progress and everything else that came with it, from the moment he stepped forward and became, the iconic US figure. And that was an era of expansion in America, which included John F. Kennedy, which included the moonshots, which included the expansion of, the American car industry around the world. Everything about it was encompassed, in my view, in Elvis Presley.
Okay. Well, my first one's going to be Robert De Niro.
Right.
Who I love as an actor.
Yeah, sure.
I love him even more since, and I'm not, people sometimes listen to this show will think that we've got some kind of political bent.
Yes.
People who know you will know that basically you don't really like many politicians at all.
No.
And you very rarely endorse any of them.
Exactly.
And I'm going to make it quite clear here, I'm not endorsing Hillary Clinton or Donald Trump. I happen to think that she'd probably make a better president. But I don't know if you saw Robert De Niro over the weekend.
No.
He recorded a little sort of vignette on to camera, just talking. And basically having to go at Donald Trump.
Nice.
And it was a fantastic sort of takedown. It went viral. Everybody saw it.
Really?
And he basically, at some point or other through the course of it.
Right.
And he did it as himself. He didn't do it as, Michael Corleone or anything like that.
Right, okay.
He basically did it as Robert De Niro. And he said he'd quite like to punch Donald Trump in the face.
Really?
Yeah.
That's threatening, isn't it?
It was a bit threatening, but it was very good.
Right.
And I shared it on Facebook. And so just because of the body of work that he's had over the course of the years that he's worked in the business, and also he's got a great restaurant in Manhattan.
Yeah. What do you think his best film was then?
Robert De Niro's best film?
Yeah.
That's interesting.
I thought you'd immediately say The Deer Hunter, because you normally do.
Probably The Deer Hunter, I suppose.
I liked Raging Bull.
Yeah, Raging Bull was terrific. It's quite difficult to name one, actually.
Yes.
I mean, he was great in The Godfather 2 as well.
Yes, he was, yeah.
And he was great in Heat.
Yes.
I suppose you might come down on the Deer Hunter.
Yeah.
Such a terribly sort of
evocative
and a difficult film to watch, actually.
Yes.
Anyway, what's your second one?
My second one is John Wayne.
John Wayne?
Yeah.
Okay.
Because to me, he again embodied everything that was about America, but not modern America, where America came from. He starred in so many cowboy films, and actually, if you'd watched all the John Wayne films, you pretty much knew the history of America from the time that, the Pilgrim Fathers arrived until the Second World War, because John Wayne was also in the Second World War a lot in a lot of films. He was a G.I. Joe or a Marine or something, but mostly as a cowboy in the Wild West. And again, to me, encompassed everything. Also, he is my mum's favourite actor.
Oh, really?
And she loved...
John Wayne was?
Yeah. Yeah, she loved to sit down and watch a John Wayne film.
Yeah.
And particularly,
I must admit, there was a time...
big fight in it or
there was
something
a time when you couldn't watch TV without there being a John Wayne film.
No, exactly.
But you never see him anymore. You have to sort of go looking for him.
Yeah, I think you do. I think you're right. I think you do, yeah. But, you're absolutely right. And funny, her favourite film wasn't actually anything to do with a cowboy film. It was the one in Ireland.
Right.
When
The Third Man, when they had a 15-minute fight. The Quiet Man, sorry.
The Quiet Man.
The Third Man was Orson Welles, wasn't it?
That's right, the Third Man was Orson Welles. When they had a fight which lasted for 15 minutes.
That was a great fight, wasn't it?
Through a village and across the fields and down by the river and then back up the valley and all that kind of stuff,
Absolutely.
Yeah,
okay.
absolutely.
My second one, you may not know this guy, but I'm going to say Carl Sagan.
Okay.
Remember Carl Sagan?
No.
He was an American sort of astronomer. He was one of the first people to bring the sort of the universe to us, you know the guy that does it now, Brian, the former pop star, Brian Cox.
Brian Cox, yes.
Brian Cox.
Brian Cox.
Brian Cox. Did you say Pox?
No, I said Brian Cox. Brian Cox.
Anyway, he had this show which was called the Cosmos.
Yes.
But because of the way he spoke, he used to pronounce it the Cosmos.
Yes.
This is the Cosmos.
Yeah.
And he was really fascinating. And when you were kind of a teenager, you could watch this show and learn all about the universe.
Right.
And in those days, he was kind of like the first sort of television guy to do it.
Yes.
And he died, I think, quite a few years ago now. But he was a fascinating bloke, and he was an expert.
What's his name again?
Carl Sagan.
See, I think that's a waste of a nomination,
Why?
because nobody's ever heard of him.
Loads of people have heard of Carl Sagan.
No, they haven't.
He was the father of modern sort of, astronomical television.
Well, not many people follow astronomics.
Well, I did in my house. I mean, I know your house, because you were all sort of peasants. You used to sit around watching Coronation Street.
Isn't it? No.
We used to watch ethereal programmes in Hampstead,
really?
and get educated.
Really?
And you should have watched it because you would have known more about, Mercury and Venus and all the rest of it, and what you could see in the stars.
Sure. Okay.
And loads of, he was before Patrick Moore came along. He was before Brian Cox came along.
Yes.
He did it all. He was the first guy to do it, and it was great.
Okay.
So that's my second one.
Okay. So my third one.
Yeah. Why are you looking at what I've written down?
No, I'm not. I can't see what you've written down. I can't, honestly. It's upside down and back to front.
Well, you can read upside down like me.
Yeah, well, I can, actually, because when you were setting out pages, you had to read them upside down and back to front.
Exactly.
My third one, again, it's very predictable, but I just can't think of another nominee who could beat it, is Muhammad Ali.
Yeah.
Because Muhammad Ali changed the world in so many different ways. You know, not only was he probably the greatest boxer we've ever seen, not that I'm claiming to be the absolute expert, but I talk to people like Colin, our friend Colin Hart, who would say that to you. But he also, of course, seized on critical social issues in the development of America.
He did.
And changed the world.
Yeah.
And for that...
And also, he was the first, we said this at the time that he died, he was the first global superstar.
He was the first
global
superstar.
Where anywhere he went, everyone knew who he was.
Everybody knew who he was. And not only that, but he transformed the image of boxing from, when Joe Louis did it, when Max Schmeling did it. My dad told me, because he was in America during the Second World War, these guys ended up being doormen.
I thought he was on the D-Day landings.
Well, he was, but not for the whole of the war.
Oh, what? What was he doing in America? They were on our side,
Yeah, I know that.
He was giving me a hard time because my dad was in Canada.
Yeah, and we used to do all...
Well, what was he doing in America?
Because we used to do all sorts of exercise with the US Navy,
really?
That's why.
I
And he was over in Norfolk, Virginia.
Well, his story's starting to have a few holes in it now.
No, and he got up to New York one time, and he told me that he went to a bar in New York, and the guy on the door was... You could pay $5 to have your picture taken with him, and he was the world champion before the war. I can't remember which one it was now. I think it was Max Schmeling.
Okay.
And he said that's how heavyweight boxers end up. That's all they ever do.
Penniless.
But Muhammad Ali didn't.
No.
Muhammad Ali was the cultured gentleman of the noble art.
Right.
So I, a man for whom I have immense admiration.
Yeah. Okay. So yours are Muhammad Ali, John Wayne, and
Elvis Presley.
Yeah, pretty good standard choices.
Yes, I think
My
so.
one, I think, is going to blow your socks off, though.
Is it?
Steve Jobs.
Steve Jobs.
The man who founded Apple.
The
man who transformed the technological landscape in the world.
Sure.
Who invented the whole idea of the iPhone.
And they seem to be a bit short of new ideas.
Well,
since
you'd have
he died.
to say, since he died, Apple have not been the company that they were.
Yeah, well, I'm not sure.
I mean,
somebody
when the iPhone 7 came out, right, there was a spoof that somebody did on sort of social media.
Yes.
Where it was somebody introducing basically an old product with nothing new in it.
That's right.
Because that's really what it is.
It is, yeah.
But people are but he created the demand that people have got.
Yes.
And the love that people have got for this one product.
Yes.
That they have to buy it every single time a new one comes out.
Exactly.
And again, the sales of the iPhone 7 went through the roof.
That's right.
And, it's an incredible legacy that he's left. You're right that it's not quite as good as it used to be.
No.
And some of the things that they've done, I think, since he died, he wouldn't have allowed them to do.
Yes.
Changing the idea of the lightning adapter was a different size.
Exactly.
That, they've now done away with the headphone jack, so you now have to listen to wireless headphones. But I mean, when you think of what the world was like before Steve Jobs invented all this stuff,
sure.
Then it was like the Dark Ages.
That's
wasn't
right,
it?
absolutely.
So mine is Steve Jobs, Robert De Niro, and Carl Sagan.
There you go.
Much more interesting choices, I'd say.
No, I wouldn't, because nobody's ever heard of Carl Sagan, as I say.
No,
and Robert De Niro was, a film star. And
what was John Wayne?
John Wayne was a film star, but he was also an icon of the age, if you see what I mean. He brought us out of the Dark Ages, out of the Second World War. Robert De Niro was yet another great American actor.
That your three are all dead?
Yes.
Yeah, all of them.
Yes, I've realised that.
At least I've got somebody who's still alive.
Who's that?
Robert De Niro.
Oh, okay, yeah. Well, what about the other guy, the middle guy?
Carl Sagan.
Is he dead?
He's dead.
He's dead.
Steve Jobs is dead.
Steve Jobs is dead, yeah. So only one living out of 6.
Yeah.
So there's no great living American apart from Robert De Niro. You see...
Well, they probably are.
And by the way, I would have nominated Al Capone in that category, not Robert De Niro.
Al Capone?
Not Al Capone.
Why would you nominate Al Capone?
Sorry.
One of the greatest gangsters and murderers of all time.
Al Pacino. Sorry, Al Pacino, yeah.
I think De Niro's a bit more kind of a serious individual.
Maybe.
In terms of what he's done. Because also, don't forget, he contributes an awful lot to the movie business. I mean, he's got his own company, he's got his own studio down in Tribeca, and he does other things more than Pacino, I think.
I got confused with Capone because I saw a picture recently, for some known reason, of Al Capone and his son at a ball game at the
Chicago White
Yankees.
Sox or something.
No, probably would have been. Yeah,
Chicago.
the Chicago White Sox, was right. and one of the players went over and signed a ball for him and was handing it to his son, you know what I mean? It's an act of complete grovelling to the most powerful man in the city.
To make sure he wasn't going to be rubbed out before the end of the game. Yeah,
absolutely, yeah.
Shocking stuff. Right, we're going to make a little announcement coming up next.
Indeed.
Because
very
we won
exciting.
Something,
very
which
exciting.
Is very nice.
Yep.
We are the two mics. We are the two mics. This is Talk Radio. Show's nearly over, Porky. It's been very enjoyable, isn't it?
Indeed.
We are here, of course. Why have you got your headphones off?
What?
Why have you got your headphones off?
To let my ears breathe.
Your ears breathe?
Yes, you
how
have to.
How are they getting on, those Sennheisers?
They're very well, thank you. Very well.
Still like them?
Yeah, of course I still like them. They're class, quality, you know, that's what I...
They're not that expensive.
They are. I've got Sennheiser, I got my Parker pen today, I've got my quality Italian shirt on. So
Italian?
Yeah, Italian.
Yeah, very good.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Now, how about this? From Hedy, going back to an early conversation we had, View to a Kill started with Grace Jones leaping off the Eiffel Tower.
Yes.
Which is true.
Yes.
And then there was kind of a car chase, wasn't there?
Yeah, but then...
Was that the one where the car got cut in half?
Yes, it was,
and he was driving just in the front half of it.
That's right.
So there wasn't a clown.
Well...
That's basically what they're saying.
Do you know what? I think you're right. And then I think the credits came up and you know, it was all like, you know...
I know there
View
was...
to a Kill and all that.
There was I think there was a James Bond film that had
there was.
the clown as you describe it, but I'm not sure if it was View to a Kill.
Yes, absolutely.
No.
Absolutely, yeah.
Now, Jamie says the lady on who was doing the heavy breathing sounded like she was involved in some kind of vertical refreshment on the radio.
Oh, yeah?
Which is a bit harsh.
Well, I'm not going to get into that. This is a family show.
Dale
absolutely.
says, I think if that woman was 100% honest with you, she would admit to being off her head on something.
No.
People are starting to suggest.
No.
And then Andy says, that hooker woman was a candle seller. Have a bath, light a candle. Cup of tea, light a candle.
Yeah.
Stare into space, light a candle.
Yeah, sit in a forest where nothing happening's all day, light a candle. Yeah,
I don't think they're taking us seriously.
What?
With this hooker thing? The listeners.
Do you know what? It's a completely mythical way of life. I mean, she said, choose your favourite coffee cup. Why would you choose any other coffee cup except your favourite one?
You might. Your favourite coffee cup might not be.
Put it on. I
don't have a favourite coffee cup.
Put it on a doily. Why would you put it on a doily? I mean,
why would you even have a doily?
Exactly. I put it on the side, and then when I've finished,
you not have a coaster?
No, not if I'm in the kitchen.
Really?
I have a coaster on my antique tables in my lounge.
Antique tables?
Yes, so it doesn't burn the wood and all that.
Have you got?
Well, I've got antique tables, haven't I?
What? Where from? What period?
From antique times. You know?
Antique times.
Yeah.
You see, that's the sort of thing you would do. You go out, send somebody out, and say, "Bring me back an antique table," and then they charge you.
Well, it was a bit like that.
£700.
Yeah,
they go, "Yeah, this is an antique."
No, my housekeeper bought it. Actually,
I fear that you've been ripped off all your life.
I don't think so.
How about this from Richard? Funny you mentioned the Duke Porky as your favourite American. I saw his grave in the OC the other week.
Oh, there you go.
When he says the OC,
yeah, what are we talking about there? The OC.
Is that the Orange County something?
It could be. Yeah, it could be if he was
the OC.
The OC, the Orange County.
What does that mean? And Lee says, Porky, surely Boss Hogg has got to be one of your favourite Americans.
Well, it's become a bit of a parody, that really, hasn't it? But anyway, you know, it's. Gotta push the envelope,
Nick says this. Good to see Porky choose Ali as a hero. Being a Butlins boxing champion, he recognises another great boxer.
Well, that's right, yeah. And by the way, I want to thank whoever it was who's a listener who did a little cartoon of a bloke pushing an envelope around over the weekend.
That's right.
Just to illustrate our appreciation of the Swansea
Now,
manager.
I think we can be ready now. Shall we make our announcement? Because I'm going to do it in the form of a tweet, because Beanie Tony sent us this. Right. He says, well done on winning Clips of the Month.
Wow.
For telling Mike Parry where to go. 76% of people apparently voted for our clip.
Well, that's terrific. Thank you very much.
Over all the others that was on TalkSport on Hawksby and Jacobs. Well, shall we have a listen to it?
Let's have a listen.
This new restaurant that's opened up was visited just the night before by 3 members of Paul McCartney's band, because apparently they were down in Sussex doing something. What?
Which band?
The band that he currently has.
What's
Not Wings. I don't know, but they play
what
with...
were the names of these musicians?
I don't know what they were, but there was a picture of them in the restaurant because they'd been out there and they were recording something with Paul McCartney down in Sussex. And 3 of the people...
What's he recording?
Well, he's probably recording some music, Porky. What do you think?
So you don't know who these 3 unnamed members, an unknown band, are recording, or if they're recording, where they're recording?
No, but I'm telling you it because you're such a maniac about the Beatles that I thought you might be interested. But if you're not interested, you can get stuff, okay? You can get lost and you can off.
That's a bit harsh.
Well, I'll tell you what, it's very interesting that, because
Yeah.
I was getting quite irritable with you. I'll tell you why.
Yes.
Because normally that's the treatment I give you. So I
see,
normally quiz
Yeah.
you on all these stories
That's
you come
right,
out with.
yeah.
And I now realise how annoying it is.
No, but I don't
Because-
lose my cool, you see.
Well, you do sometimes.
No,
you
I
have in the
keep my-
past.
no, I think I
but for
keep my
some
cool.
reason,
Yes.
bizarrely, our roles were reversed
Yeah,
there.
that's right, yeah.
And you were quizzing me on
Yeah.
something I obviously didn't know very much about.
Exactly.
And, but it was very funny. And funnily enough, actually, they bleeped out a word, which we probably won't say now, but it wasn't a terrible word.
No.
But because they bleeped it, everyone thought it was a much worse word.
Yes, I know. But
Because, it's not as if I would be
it was also
irresponsible to swear like that
it
on
was
the radio.
also the occasion you called me the beardy weirdy.
Beardy weirdo. Bearded weirdo, I think
Bearded
it was, actually,
weirdo,
yeah.
which didn't get into it. Do you know what? You won't believe this, but years ago, sadly in the aftermath of 9/11,
Yeah.
there was a viral cartoon that went round, and it was David Beckham
Right.
booting a football, which was actually a bomb, in the direction of Osama bin Laden, who was the man who everybody thought was responsible for
Right.
the outrage.
Well, including the Americans.
Yeah, and do you know what he said?
What?
Take that, you bearded weirdy.
Really?
That's the first time I ever heard it.
Really?
Yeah, because Osama
bizarre.
bin Laden had a long beard.
Bin
you know.
Laden, I used to call him.
That's right, yeah. And so I thought you might have picked it up from there, but obviously you never saw that, no?
No, I didn't. No, the only reason I said it was because that was what I was thinking at the time.
Yeah, exactly,
To be
yeah.
honest.
Yeah.
Now, Malcolm says this, and Michael. Apparently, the movie you're thinking of was Octopussy.
Oh,
The
Octopussy
clown
was it, yeah.
The clown was 009. He
Aye,
was
that's
killed
right.
by a knife thrower.
That's right, yeah. He was, yeah, in the end. Yeah, you're absolutely right.
So there you go.
Absolutum, yeah.
Thank you very much indeed. We will be back tomorrow, of course, at 1 o'clock in the afternoon
Yes.
with some more tales of the